prison in the mid-90s?
Not magical, and it's not a turning point. It's an evolution. I had a problem with Hamas since my childhood, and the gap kept widening between us. At some point, Israel came to the picture. The gap was already wide enough for me to work against Hamas. I have so many motivations. Some of it is personal, some of it ideological, some of it is moral. I wonder, why someone like you actually just think about why and how. That's your method, doubt. But you never say, thank you. Never say thank you for saving one human life. You think saving human life, this is practically what I did, risking my life on a regular basis to save civilians from suicide bombing attacks. You think that this was somehow a matter of doubt, like magical. What's the magic happened? You don't think that there was power behind it, that someone took a stand, made a decision to go against his own family, to fight brutality and save humanity from suicide bombing attacks. You are not seeing that part. You just see the part that push your interests and your agendas. This is why I don't like your question. This is why I don't like you.
But you haven't answered my question. What caused you to? Because you went into the prison, and again, I'm not super familiar with your story, but you went into the prison
why you
fighting.
Talk about that? So why you posing
I'm asking you. I'm trying to get clarification before we talk more. I'm asking you a question. You went into the prison, having been captured fighting for Hamas. I'd assume something to that effect. And then you come out and you're fighting against Hamas as an informant. You say that you took a brave stand. I don't think you took a brave stand. I think you're a disgrace to your family, to your country, to your people, and to your former religion. But I'm just asking you why you changed your entire worldview 180 degrees.
So you see, this is your point of view. This is what's in common between you and the savages. This is exactly the common point of view and Hamas. Because in my opinion, I betrayed the interests of the tribe. Yes, I did, and that's a local one. But I never betrayed the higher interests of humanity because I saved people's lives. I did not even know their identity. And your cannot put doubt in me and in the things that I did.
So you don't want to answer the question, what caused you to change your worldview?
You don't have a question, you just have accusations.
No. The question. The question, it's a really interesting story you have. You went in fighting for Hamas. You came out as an informant for the Israeli government, the side you were fighting against. I just want to know what caused you to change your opinion in that prison.
Listen, I tell you something, my friend. Someone like
you're not my friend.
You're just a clown. You're just a clown with an opinion. This is what you are. You don't have experience. You don't speak on your own authority. You have a second-hand knowledge, and you think you can sit somewhere in comfort and pass a judgment. There's a criminal there, and that's you.
Is God. So I'm just asking you why you changed. Is God. So I'm just asking you why you changed your opinion so drastically. If you don't want to answer it, then that's.
My father is a Hamas founder. I was conditioned. Like I had interest in Hamas, then I shift agendas. I had to die to fight against Hamas.
Good. If you think Israel is wrong, that's fine. I don't. care. It's just a very, very big shift. Debating about working for the savages that are. I don't think you're a cog to the Israeli intelligence. Just if you consider Hamas to be savages,
First of all, the state of Israel is democracy. And it's not a savage group. It's a counter. Took Palestinian. So you can, but the truth that they're two different systems, and what's happening in Gaza is only on the hands of Hamas, not on the hands of Israel.
So you don't think that Israel slaughtered babies and done horrific things like that over the past month alone?
In war, people die. So let's say if a terrorist inside the house and there are civilians around and they're launching missiles, launching RPGs from those apartments, then Israel target that building while civilians die. Those are war victims. In war, people die. It's very different than going into the West Bank in a peaceful village, then systematically kill thousands of people in your way. Why Israel is not doing this to the Palestinians in the West Bank? The death is happening in Gaza because Hamas is taking civilians as human shields. Big difference. There are 1 million Arabs who live in Israel. They live freely. They are good citizens, and the Arabs and the Jews get along in Israel. So there's a huge difference. Tell me how many Jews.
But there was no. I mean, the Arab world had no animosity for the West, and they weren't doing any terror attacks against the West or anything like that before 1948. I mean, could you even name 5 famous Israelis before 1948?
So you're giving me a challenge, a history challenge, and if I don't know, means that I am not what I am.
Can you name 5 historically significant Palestinians before 1948?
No, I don't. I don't have to.
You don't have to. Okay, well, I just think it's important because in 1948 is really when the terror began. You said that, civilian casualties are a byproduct of war. Well, the Palestinian people have been at war since 1948, on and off, on and off, on and off. Okay. So what's so different?
Listen.
But I'll just finish this. And every single bout of fighting that's taken place, Israel's killed way more civilians, way more individuals as a whole in Gaza and, in armed clashes in the West Bank as well, then, Palestinians, the resistance has killed Israelis. So how do you defend, you say that the resistance is barbaric or savage. I mean, they've killed far less Israelis than Israel's killed Gazans.
Wow. Just your delusion is incredible.
What's delusional about that statement? The stats don't lie.
Because it's baseless. It's baseless, and you're trying to discredit me by asking me about some Jewish names that I'm supposed to know in order to be credible or not.
But do you deny that Israel's killed far more Palestinians than Palestine has killed Israelis?
If you want to listen in history, which is by the way, my background, this is my school. I studied history. If you want me to lecture you about the Middle Eastern history, I can.
Okay.
The Israeli people or the Jewish people who came there, they came as legal migrants to under the British mandate. They did not come invading lands. They came legal migrants with papers, and they established an amazing state. And the Arabs did not like this fact. They wanted to annihilate this small state, even though Israel was willing to let Arabs have a state side by side with the state of Israel. The Arabs,
Okay.
since 1948, the Arabs wanted to annihilate the state of Israel, and this is the root cause of their problem. If they accepted Israel since 1948, then there wouldn't be a problem. Then they came back at 1967, and they tried to destroy the state of Israel again, all united. Israel was extremely outnumbered, and the Arab lost the war. Once the Arab lost the war, Israel had the right to set the terms to the defeated. And the Arabs did not accept. But the Arabs didn't. Israel accepted that this is our state, and the Arabs rejected completely to accept right to exist as Israel. As outcome of that war, the Arabs lost the Golan Heights, the West Bank, the
Israel was in the middle of an ethnic a flood happen. I mean, if you're going to make you can't really make the argument that they're not further encroaching and ethnically cleansing Palestinians out of this land.
It's when you say ethnically cleansing, you have to support what you're saying. When I said ethnically cleansing on October 7th, I have the evidence. We provide the evidence to the West Bank. Where in the West Bank? Give me the name of the village or the town. Where in the West Bank, and how many people died in this ethnic cleansing?
You said that you provided evidence that Hamas ethnically cleansed Israelis. I mean, a lot of those deaths were, first of all, military. Over half of them were military. Second of all, a lot of those deaths took place because Israeli helicopters and tanks accidentally or on purpose killed civilians in an effort to wipe out Hamas. I think Israel's guilty of ethnically cleansing Israelis.
Right. How about we leave this interpretation to the experts in the United Nations to decide if it was authentic or not? But about you, I ask you about your evidence in the West Bank. You say Israel committed ethnic cleansing in the West Bank. Give me the name of the village, the city, what happened, and how many people died, and how they died.
To your point, I don't trust the United Nations to deliberate what actually took place on October 7th in Israel. We saw the footage of Apache attack helicopters killing both civilians and Hamas fighters. Haaretz has even published this fact that an IDF or an Israeli police officer source in their investigation said that, yeah, they killed civilians. So Israel, I guess, is guilty of the same thing that you claim that the Palestinians are guilty of. But I have another question. Where do you live right now, if you don't mind me asking?
Why? So you can tell your friends at Hamas where I live?
No, I don't think there's too many. Hamas insurgents in the United States. So, why do you think? I mean, personally, as an American, I see no purpose in emptying up our coffers for Israel. I see no purpose in maintaining the Israeli state. I don't care if Israel exists or if it doesn't. If it does, then that's one thing. If it doesn't, that's another thing. You know, it's like the average Joe who's sitting from U.S. taxpayer dollars being sent to Israel.
Wow. Okay. First of all, the common things between Israel and the United States, defense, interest. Israel is an advanced front for the United States in the Middle East that maintains stability in one of the most where the energy resources where you depend on when you go fill your car in gas, and you complain when the prices go up. And you are not the only taxpayer in this country. I'm also a taxpayer, and there are like more than 6 million Jews that actually pay a lot more than what you are paying towards the American Treasury. And of course, they have more power because they pay more taxes. And when you get to a point when you pay
that sounds
as much
very
tax,
anti-Semitic.
It's not about Semitic or not Semitic. It's about what's in common between the state of Israel and the United States government and the NATO countries versus the alternative, which is chaotic. It does not believe in the American Constitution, does not believe in the American way of life. And if Israel fails in the Middle East confronting those entities, then the threat will be against the American interest, not only in the Middle East region, also it will be worldwide. So basically,
Okay, but I don't care. I'm an American. I don't care if any other country adheres to the Constitution. I mean, I frankly, if they want to govern, if they want Hamas to govern, then okay, you know, that can be their decision. I don't care. So why is it that you said you said that we have to maintain our security in the Middle East? How many times did the Middle East go to war or attack the United States or Western interests on Western soil before 1948? Seems like the Middle East only got upset with the West after we started to embark on this genocidal project in Israel.
This is a distorted perception, I think, because first of all, America, when you are a superpower, you have responsibility towards the world. You become the world's police. It's not up to you, because the entire world depends. Who says that? When you are the leading economy, would you think the economy happened magical? Just the same way you assume I got out of jail in a magical sense?
Yeah, I do. If China becomes the leading economy, does whatever China say goes for the rest of the world?
The leading economy depends on who's leading intellectually and who's leading morally and who's leading in many other principles. And the United States is the leading force, not only accidentally. It's what America stands for. And America never initiated a war in the Middle East. It's the United States. The United States.
The United States never initiated a war in the Middle East.
It's always was a response. It was American interest to trade, to stability in the region, where you have
the Iraqi. So were WMD in Iraq real?
What was your question again?
Well, you said that it's always been a response. You said the United States has never started a war in the Middle East. It's always been a response. And you cited I'm assuming the early 2000s Iraqi invasion as justification for that claim. So the justification that was put forward by the Bush administration at the time, Colin Powell, all of them at the UN, they said that they had to go into Iraq because of WMD in Iraq. So were there WMD in Iraq or not?
This was not the only problem with Iraq. That Iraq wanted to obtain nuclear power. They started a nuclear program that was destroyed by Israel with a green light from the United States. The Iraqi Saddam Hussein tried for decades to sabotage the American interest in the Middle East, invading Kuwait, supporting Yasser Arafat, launching Scud missiles against American allies.
Why is I don't think America should be in the Middle East.
Well, then don't drive your car around.
Well, I think that we should develop our own resources. Wait. Why do we have to? There's no reason why we should be getting oil from the Middle East. We should get our own oil from America.
So
and
why
from
don't
Canada.
you create it instead of wasting your time just in a useless
I
debate?
fully support that. I fully support the Keystone XL pipeline. But
So you're
what I'm
waiting,
saying,
maybe.
what I'm saying is, you keep citing this. Well, first of all, you cite a lot of crazy things. You cited the oil prices as justification for U.S. Support for Israel. Don't you think that
I didn't say the only thing.
What did you say about
It's
oil
one of the
prices?
reasons, but
Because
it's
you
not the
kept
only
saying oil prices are so important for Americans.
Oil is very important for the Americans. Energy is very important. This is how you operate your entire system. So,
Well,
if you
don't you
have an
think that it
alternative
would be better
solution,
for? Don't you think it'd be better for American oil prices and gas prices if we didn't go to war with the countries that produce a lot of the world's oil?
well, first of all, you need to secure the region that produced that oil and make sure that it's stable. And this is the American work in the Middle East, the American presence to make sure that this is energy source for the entire planet. So you cannot just keep it in the hands of savages who would blackmail and destabilize the entire globe by the use of this energy. So if they need to, it has to be.
Russia and China do a lot of trade with these so-called savage, barbaric states that you're mentioning, and they seem to have no problem. They're not being blackmailed. I mean, they get oil for cheap from them if they need it, and they get it to their allies. So I just think it would make a lot more sense. You know, these countries were never upset with us before Israel as a state created, and we started providing all the support to them. And I think if we made peace with them, we'd get cheaper oil and cheaper gas. But I have another question. So earlier you said that Israel is going to wipe out Hamas, even if it's the last thing they do. That you said something to that effect, correct?
I don't think so. We don't need nukes to destroy Hamas. We need a lot less than that.
Yeah. So why do you think that the Israeli government lies about having nukes?
Why didn't you ask them?
Well, I'm asking you. You're a former and or current, I don't know, Israeli spy.
And who told you that I have the Israeli nuclear secrets?
Well, you just said that Israel has nukes. They officially say they don't, but you said that they do.
And I think it's their right to have it. Didn't they develop it? Have you ever heard of Einstein?
You think it's their right to have nukes?
They are these Jewish people who
what right do they have to have nukes?
It's not what the nukes that in the United States are made by Jews.
But what right do Israelis have to have nukes?
Well, if their brain is capable of making such a powerful weapon, who are you to tell them to have it or not to have it?
Well, I guess you are, because you just said that we had to invade Iraq because.
I never been to their nuclear program. Am I supposed
I know, but
to
you said if a people can create a nuke, it's their right to have it. But a moment ago, you just said that we had to invade Iraq because they were developing nukes, and so I guess if Iraq had the possibility to develop.
Percy, where people responsible and there is no
The United States to drop nukes on a bunch of civilians in Japan when the war was already pretty much wrapped up, and they,
took the United States to build the bomb, and once the United States had accomplished the bomb, that their response came 4 years later, but didn't mean that the World War II. So sometimes, if it means to drop a dirty bomb in order to end a war, then be it.
Huh. It seems like you have this notion that only the West and Western allied states are allowed to commit war crimes, but if Hamas or anyone else does it, then they have to have their country invaded and civilians slaughtered, and that's okay because it's just collateral damage. Do you care that your brothers and sisters and friends are being killed by the Israeli government?
Look, I'm not the only one. Even the greatest philosophers, even Lao Tzu, the most peaceful philosopher of the East, said that the use of force is legitimate, it's inevitable, but it is the last resort. When
Well,
savages, democracy, push people who believe in dialogue, in tolerance, in democracy, in the other, all the way to the corner, and the only language they can understand is violence, then be it.
but
Peacemakers don't necessarily.
that's exactly what Hamas would say about Israel, that they're terrorists.
No, it's not true. It's not
Well,
true because
but they're
Hamas does
bombing
not believe in the
hospitals
other.
and schools. I mean, just before we came live, they bombed a Doctors Without Borders clinic in Gaza. So that's exactly what Hamas would say about Israel, that they're a bunch of terrorists and
No,
the
it's
only
not
response
true.
that they
In the
understand is
United States,
violence.
if you have hate against the Muslim minority, it's a hate crime. You will be persecuted by the American law. In Gaza, they don't be, and Hamas regime, they don't believe in the same principles. So when the United States demonstrate the use of force, even if it was a lethal force, it's on righteous basis. Its constitution speaks for itself. But what's Hamas constitution? Where Hamas does not believe in anything other than themselves. They killed even their Palestinian rivals. They don't believe in Christians. Where are the synagogues in Gaza? Actually, look throughout the Arab world. How many Jewish communities in the Arab world? Where are they? You know
Well,
how
I mean,
long it,
since the October 7th incident took place, Israel's killed far more Christians than Palestinians has killed Christians. I mean, they bombed the vicinity of the church they killed where Justin Amash, U.S. Senator, Libertarian, they killed his family members that were taking shelter at the oldest Orthodox Christian church inside of Gaza.
because he allowed Hamas build the missile pad in his church, and he was idiot enough to stay in it. He should have
Justin Amash
evacuated.
was an idiot.
Of course, if there is a superior force, let's say
But
a
Justin
savage
Amash is a
force.
U.S. Senator.
Let's to fight them and say, get out of my property. At least I can get myself out of the situation and save myself and my children. Why did he stay there, seeing Hamas building a missile launching pad in his church, in his community? Why did he stay
Well,
there and keep his children inside that community, knowing
well, I've
that
said
Israel could kill them?
you keep interrupting me. I've tried to say it 4 times. Justin Amash is not in Gaza. He's a U.S. senator that resides in the United States. So he didn't allow Hamas to, despite what you've said multiple times, he didn't allow Hamas to build artillery within a church or something like that.
So then, what's your original point? If he's in the United States,
Why? My point is, why do you keep saying that he allowed Hamas to build a firing position within a church in Gaza?
because you said that Israel targeted Christians and a church in Gaza, and I know that incident. And in that case, Hamas built missile launching pads in those communities, in the church that you're referring to. So whoever died there, I ask why they stayed in that community. Why didn't they evacuate to escape getting caught up in the fire between Hamas and Israel? Why did they stay?
Well, there's no proof of that. I mean, you just say these things. There's no proof.
You just said, you just accused that
value.
Israel targeted Christians.
So go ahead, Jackson. If you I have questions when you're done.
anytime Israel bombs a church, a hospital, Israel built before the while they were maintaining the occupation of Gaza. So
you cannot use
because I don't think there's any person that has this groundbreaking evidence.
it's okay.
Where in the church were these artillery positions located?
Mosab, are you there? Not sure if he's having a technical issue.
Mosab, we can't hear you.
I have a credibility issue, man. Because the Israelis didn't even claim that there was a Hamas launching pad in the...
So let's go, Charles. I'll let you respond to that particular point until Mosab is back.
I have no intelligence on that either way, but I would like Jackson to talk about his evidence of these mass genocides going on in the West Bank. I mean, he deflected from it earlier, so can we get an answer to that question?
Jackson, did you hear the question from Charles?
Sorry, I was muted. Netanyahu, it was a stated goal that they were engaging in this ethnic cleansing of the West Bank. They admitted
Do
it.
you have any physical evidence that it happened?
Yeah, Netanyahu admitted it.
Do you have any physical evidence that it happened, Jackson? Can you pull up, show us mass graves? Can you show us something? Can you show us dead bodies? Can you show us this genocide that you claim is happening in the West Bank? Or are you just
I didn't
going to
say
lie?
genocide. I didn't say genocide. I said ethnic cleansing, the removing of
Okay.
Palestinians from regions of the West Bank.
Okay, from where? Give me a city. Give me the pictures. Give me the evidence. Because you seem to say a lot, but then you deflect when you get pushed. So provide the evidence, buddy.
What I find so interesting is you have people like Mosab come in here and they say, "Well, there's no ethnic
Can
cleansing."
you not deflect? Jackson, can you not deflect?
Wait. I'm answering your question. You're deflecting.
Stop your deflecting.
Wait. Stop yelling.
Stop your deflecting.
Stop showing out.
Charles. Let him answer. He might answer it directly or indirectly. We'll just have to take what we get. Jackson.
Yeah, you're sowing out right now. It's not a good look. So, so he came in here and he said that there's no ethnic, and I find it very funny that his mic started to not work right when I asked him where those artillery positions were in the church. But he comes in here and he says that Hamas has always started the aggression, that Israel's never encroached on Palestinian territory. Look at the maps.
Can you answer my question, please? Can you stop deflecting and answer my question? One time.
I'm not deflecting anything. Do you deny that there was...
You're talking about Mossad. I'm asking about you and your evidence. Where is your evidence, Jackson?
I'm talking about what he just said.
You were just talking about him, dude. Well, Mossad said this and Mossad said that. Where is your evidence of ethnic cleansing, Jackson?
Mario, if possible.
Go ahead, Zeph.
Yeah, so Mr. Hinkle, I concede your point that prior to 1948 there were no famous Israelis. Can you please identify a famous Palestinian to me prior to 1948? Thank you.
No, I'm not an expert in Palestinian history. I don't see the point. I'm sure there were many, but the point that I was making is that Israel didn't exist as a state before 1948, so there were no famous Israelis. Obviously, there's famous Palestinians, there's famous Lebanese before 1948, whatever, but my point is that before 1948, by way of Western
first time on stage. Go ahead. And by the way, just to find you famous Palestinians before 1948, you've got Khalil al-Thaqani. He's a notable Palestinian Christian educator, writer.
There we go.
There's a list of them there. Najib Nassar, Hussein Fakhri al-Khalidi. But I think that moves away from the point. Like, you can find that about any country. I don't think it makes much of a point, Zev. But just thought I'd show off my quick Googling skills. Tamar?
Hi, Mario. Thank you so much for having me. I just want to take the opportunity to address Jackson. Jackson, a lot of us in Israel have seen your tweets and followed your Twitter account. I have to say your account is one of the most revolting, atrocious accounts I have ever seen, riddled with anti-Semitism and conspiracy theories. And honestly, I think it's an embarrassment to X that you're still allowed to hold an account. The amount of propaganda and lies that you have used your account to share with millions of people around the world and to call for, more violence against Jews is absolutely disgusting. The fact that yesterday you posted a photo of a young girl who was held hostage in Gaza.
Okay. Do you have a question?
No, I guess my question is when your account is going to be taken down.
Okay. Israeli official state government says about me is true. Okay.
I mean, I think everyone here knows that.
So you're head. I'm looking at your bio right now. You're head of digital operations for Israel. So do you run the MFA and the Israeli Twitter accounts that I ratio every day?
I mean, you don't ratio them. You literally share fake.
I'm asking you the question again fairly. Where were the artillery positions located in the hospital that they bombed the Christian hospital?
I thought you were referring to that.
Okay, yeah, I was.
So
I had a.
there are Christians who got killed in the first week of the war. I don't know them personally, but they were all over the news. And the reason for their death, because Hamas launched missiles from there. And I asked myself, okay, if I was in your position and I cannot fight Hamas, it's a superior power, but at least I can leave Gaza. At least I can go outside of that compound where there is a launching pad, knowing that a retaliation would happen. So I cannot, basically my point, I cannot blame Israel. In a war, civilians get caught up in the war, and civilians die. And this is why war is ugly. So don't expect a war that Hamas starts against Israel that people are not going to die in it. You need to be realistic.
Okay, so you don't know if there was a. Okay, so you don't know if there was a military position in the church.
I don't know.
So why'd you say that there was a military position
because
in the vicinity
that's
of the church?
I know that there was a launching pad.
But you don't know if there was one?
I know that there was one.
Okay, so earlier you said that there was nothing going on, nothing nefarious in the West Bank prior to October 7th. If there was nothing bad going on there, Israel wasn't doing anything, why were 172 Palestinians killed in the West Bank prior to this breaking out this year alone in the West Bank?
Because in the West Bank, especially in Jenin area, there is a militia of Islamic Jihad and other Palestinian groups. That was, and also we had situation in Nablus or Shechem, and these groups were determined to shoot and kill Israelis in the West Bank. So when the Israelis came to arrest them or to assassinate them, there was confrontation, and civilians got also killed in the process.
So it's only okay for Israel to kill civilians on accident?
I'm not saying that. It's the necessary evil.
Well, you quoted Lao Tzu, right?
Because you said you only believe in the West.
What did Lao Tzu say? What did Lao Tzu say again?
He justified the use of force as the last resort. He did not cancel.
But did you know he also he there's also another quote where he talks about that people shouldn't conquer the world by force because force only causes resistance. Thorns spring up when an army passes. Years of misery follow a great victory. Do only what needs to be done without using violence.
Right.
That's actually the quote that Lao Tzu said.
In the meantime, he did not cancel the use of force as a last resort. That is as the necessary evil. Because you accused me of believing of the West propaganda that the use of force is justified. Then I wanted to bring you an example from the philosopher of the East to tell you, no, this is the reality of the world, that sometimes it's inevitable. If somebody, let's say, try to attack you, you have the right to defend yourself. If you attack somebody, then you will have to accept the outcome if you initiate an attack. And this is what Hamas did. Israel did.
Yeah, but you quote the philosopher of the East, Lao Tzu, but Lao Tzu also said that resistance will occur when you approach every situation with force. So you're misquoting him. But I have a question.
And also Lao Tzu said, those who talk don't know, and those who know don't talk. If you want me to just start talking about Lao Tzu and take him out of the context, I told you he did not cancel the right to use force as a last resort, when you exhaust everything. And Israel had exhausted dialogue, negotiations, everything with Hamas, so they can drop their idea to annihilate the state of Israel. This is why Gaza was under siege for almost 17 years. If Hamas dropped their idea to annihilate the state of Israel, Gaza would have been a paradise now. So you just want to blame Israel. This is your problem.
Israel, yeah, but Israel's not standing on their own 2 feet. They're doing everything that they're doing because of U.S. funding and U.S. arms. I mean, if they didn't have U.S. backing, there would be no Israeli state very soon.
That's not true. Israel is a leading economy. It's a superpower. It's a super economy. They are leading technology. They're leading in defense. It's a dependent ally, but also interdependent. It's not.
So if Israel would continue to exist, I guess you'd have no problem with the U.S. and Western states cutting off all aid to Israel, because I support that.
Then this is what you do, but I don't know if you really matter, because there are a lot more powerful people than you in this country who actually believe that Israel is a legitimate ally, and the relation between the United States and Israel should continue for eternity. It's a very good friend of the United States. When 9/11 happened, the state of Israel was there 24 hours around the clock fighting.
Well, yeah, that's a great quote. When 9/11 happened, Israel was there. That's a great quote. So how much does Israel pay you, or do you do it for free?
There we go. So do you think if I tell you I got paid means that I'm not credible?
Yes.
Well, then this is your opinion, and your opinion doesn't matter.
Well, I'm just for the audience. I mean, we got a lot of people listening. So, do you do it for free, or have you been paid?
Look, I've been maintaining my life for the last 10 years under $500 per month.
That's impressive.
Can you do my life for the last 10 years under 500?
Impressive.
Can you live
yes,
for under 500?
but I
Right, you
have
see?
lived my
So
life
I
with
don't
under
have.
5 for the Israeli. So let's just get this straight here. You went to an Israeli prison in 1995, having been pro-Hamas before. You were around spy intelligence agency, and you're doing that all for free?
There is something, an average brain.
I think I'll tell you what I think. I think that you've said on record before that you're the only person on the earth who is simultaneously being paid by Israel, the United States, the Palestinian Authority, and Hamas all at once. So you're lying.
Yeah, at some point, yes, true, because I was doing work, and when you do work,
you were being paid.
Where you listen? Where are you expecting from me to work for free? Do you work for free?
That's what you just said. That's what you just said.
Yes, but money is not the center of my attention. If it was the center of my attention, I would have stayed where Hamas money is, because it was a lot more money.
Hamas money is a lot more money than Israeli money?
Yes.
That's news to me. I thought you just said that Israel's the leading economy, one of the leading economies in the world, and there's all these.
Yeah,
it kind of sounds anti-Semitic what you're saying. You're saying
you don't want to listen. You don't want to listen. In intelligence
I want to
service,
listen.
They cannot pay. They cannot pay informants money, because if they give them more money than they actually can earn in real life, they would expose them.
But you just said that you took money from Israel. You were paid by Israel.
It's true.
So you're saying that you were saying that you weren't paid by Israel and you did this just because you're a brave man, but now you're saying that you
contradicts with that.
It contradicts because you said you weren't paid and then
paid for my effort, for my work. Left the Israeli intelligence for about 10 years. How you explain why am I doing the things that I'm doing right now? So I am not part of the Israeli intelligence. I am not paid by the Israeli government. I'm well-established author with a New York Times bestseller. And I don't need the Israeli government money. So how can you explain a successful model like pay me? They don't even pay money to their own employees. I don't need that.
Well, you're acting like that you're self-made man. I'm just asking because you did say that you were paid by Israel.
I am, unlike you.
Okay, but you were paid by Israel.
Do you have any other questions before I go do something more important than your childish debate?
Well, I'd love to get him a question to you, Mosab, at some point.
Yeah, sure. In a bit. Jackson, do you have any other questions?
How do you sleep at night?
I sleep very well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you turned on your family, you turned on your country, you turned on your religion, and you sleep well.
Yeah, and I don't have guilt. Unlike you, someone like you, you're a midget. And
I'm a midget?
Someone like you cannot handle the pressure. So you assume that everyone else is not able to sleep if they stand for themselves, go against the flow of their society. I sleep well, I'm healthy, I'm as strong as a mountain. People like you don't understand this. So do you want to ask another personal question? Move on.
No, I think we can let some other people ask questions.
Good.
Yes.
Go find a life. I suggest that you go find a life. Leave the Middle East
alone. I have a life, and unlike you, I'm not propped up by the state of Israel.
You don't. You
Just
are
the state of Russia.
Anyone who's propped up by the state of Israel does not have a life. You're not emancipated. You're not free. You're not liberated. You're doing the work of some of the most depraved, barbaric people on the face of the earth, the Zionist government, and it's appalling. But I guess if that's what it takes to get a New York Times best-selling book, then by all means keep doing it. It's great.
Yeah, well, I got on New York Times bestseller list top 10, not because it's a propaganda, because it's my real life, my first-hand experience in
Yeah,
life. That
that's
I
what Hillary Clinton and George Bush probably said when their books got
yes,
on the New York Times
and
best-selling list
I
too.
have
Oh,
I
I
have
actually have
under
another
my
question
belt
for you.
countless.
What are your
I have
thoughts?
under my belt.
As a
Listen,
Palestinian
listen,
native?
listen,
What are your
listen,
thoughts
listen,
on George Bush?
listen, you kiddo, listen. I saved so many human lives. I
Yeah,
declare it. I'm not ashamed of it. Can you say
you
the
saved
same?
human lives, but
Can
you provided
human lives,
intelligence to kill your
civilians,
brothers and sisters
Israelis,
and friends.
Palestinians, but you, who
So,
are you? What have you contributed to humanity? Do you think you can judge me? I condemn you,
okay, I can judge you. I just
but
have a
I
question. What do you
condemn
think?
you.
Okay, what do you think
You
of
can judge a judge, but a judge can put you in jail.
Can
I
anyone
condemn
else have some word in
only
here?
only God judges me. If you want to judge me, I don't care. It's toilet paper. That's what I think of your judgment. But what do you think about George Bush as a Palestinian native?
Why does this
Mario,
matter?
I think I'm done with this
So
You
Mosab,
don't
slow life.
you don't want to answer?
So
You
if
don't
you
want to
want to
answer?
continue this conversation, I don't want to hear his voice, or otherwise I'm out. So you choose, me or him. It's finished.
Okay,
I'm done
when
with
you're
this.
up at night and you can't sleep because you've sold out your own people, I hope you're thinking
Hey
about my
Jackson, how
voice.
much money do you get from RT,
okay,
Jackson? Tell us the truth. How much you get?
Grand total $0. Okay, so he doesn't want to answer the question. He's sleepless at night. He's spineless, ballless. Okay, Mosab, it was very nice talking to you.
Sarai, go ahead.
Thank you so much. Oh my God, listening to this was just painful. I do feel for Mus'ab, and I just have one question for Jackson. Why are you even interested in this conflict? You are this spoiled kid from Florida. You don't know shit about Islam. You don't know anything about our culture. You don't know anything about Hamas. Why are you even here? And you're asking him, is he getting paid? Let me tell you something. None of us are getting paid by the Israeli government. I'm a human rights activist. I wanted to go to Israel just to interview people there and see what's going on. And the Israeli government is not even helping with that. And like, this is something very well known with the Jewish community, that the Israeli government doesn't have funding, that we have to fund here, we have to fund for ourselves. If someone believes in you, that's literally what it is. And you are sitting there telling him if the Israeli government is paying him is just
Because he
Why
admitted to
is he
being
still
paid by
there?
Israel.
no, but
Wait, wait,
also
wait.
you said, also one thing you said, where
Wait.
does
But you're
Hamas
saying
get the money? Can
But
I
you're
finish my point? When you
yeah,
said, when
after I finish. So
I'll,
you said that it's anti-Semitic for me to ask him if he's being paid by Israel when he's on
no,
record saying he's been paid by Israel.
no, it's not that. It's anti-Semitic that you are expecting that the Israeli government is paying for people to say things about Israel, because you keep posting that Zionists are getting paid and we are not
But he
getting paid.
is. He did get
Well,
paid.
he got paid because he was a spy or something. That's different. We're human rights activists, and we do this because we believe in it, because we understand the situation. And for you,
So
when you
how is it
said,
anti-Semitic for
when
me to
you
question whether or not he's been paid when he has been paid?
because you are posting this anti-Semitic post on Twitter all the time, accusing us, everyone who says anything positive about Israel, that we are getting paid, and we are not. This is why,
Uh,
and you know
Sarai, there's
this.
been messages from TikTok from TikTok users. There's been messages for them being paid to post content. There's been messages for protests, hiring people to go to protest. This has been proof that's been posted
The
online.
same,
So
this,
it's
okay, the
not
same thing.
anti-Semitic when there's been posts that are
The
being put
same
up there
thing
and
is
emails that
being
have been put up
said.
there
The
that have
same
been
thing
out
is
to the
being
other
said
side. Email about being paid. The other side, we have seen emails about it publicly.
is sponsoring all of that. And for him, when he said, oh, so does Hamas have more money than Israel? Actually, yes. Also has this intense hatred for Israel, for the Jewish people, and he needs to talk to people like us who know Arabic, who speak Arabic, who knows Islam, who came from these countries. We had Hamas of Iraq as well, by the way. You can look it up, and you can ask me, and I can tell you what these guys, what they believe in. They do not believe in the freedom of Palestinians. They believe in the eradication of the Jewish states because they are anti-Semitic. That's the whole point. So when you are the Hamas fighter would not marry her. What is wrong with you? Are you really that sick in the head?
Okay,
Are
well,
you
I'll
really
just
that
say,
sick in the head that you are talking in this way
okay,
about a victim, a girl who
okay.
was shot in her leg?
It's getting very emotional and PMSy
Of
in here.
course,
Let's just answer the
it's not
question.
Terrified of
PMSing. These
women.
are
It's
facts.
hilarious. You're terrified of women.
Okay,
It's honestly hilarious.
so your question,
Exactly.
so
Sexism,
your
PMSing.
okay. Okay, so well, it's true. So your question was, why do I
Well,
care about this?
psychopathy, you know,
Okay,
men
let
being
me just
men being
okay,
psychopaths. That's
let
also you
I
exactly
don't
because you
condone
just
that.
said PMSing. So I'm playing your own game of being
Well, that's just
sexist.
just very sexist. Very sexist.
You are
So
such a child, and you should.
I'll just answer. There was a lot of emotion in that. Let me just answer two of your questions, and I think your mic is still on. I don't know if you're changing your.
God, are you like you are
Let's avoid.
uncivilized?
Do you want to answer the question?
On Twitter, you're a despicable person. Of course.
Okay, yeah. So I started this, even though you came in with this screeching. Actually, that's a fake tweet that
That
one of
is
you
not
made.
okay.
But
What about the one you just
It is no,
posted
it is a
about the
fake tweet.
Hamas?
It's a fake
Oh,
tweet.
okay. What about the one about Hamas and saying that the victim is in love with Hamas fighter? How do you sleep at night saying this kind of bullshit on Twitter? How can you mock a victim?
well,
And then you call us that we are PMSing and being sexist, just like you're a child. You should not be conversing with adults. You should not be talking about politics. I don't like, I'm surprised that actually, and I'm disappointed that Mario is giving you a platform.
Okay, I can barely hear you through all the lip filler. So your question
Exactly.
was,
Just
Guys, we have to avoid the personal. We'll have
childish
avoid the personal
responses.
attacks. So Jackson, on the unauthorized criticism on your tweets and the anti-Semitism, do you want to respond directly to those allegations?
yeah, well, she cited a fake tweet that I never wrote, which is just, I mean, I'm, it's, she said, well, you're just here for views and clicks and whatever. The only reason why I have views and clicks is because our enemies are so stupid and put out such insane lies like that. So your question was, why do I care? And I tried to answer this. I don't know how many times I keep getting interrupted, but the question was, why do I care about this conflict? Same reason I care about any other conflict that the U.S. is funneling billions of dollars in our taxes to. I mean, there's zero reason for Israel to have a single penny in U.S. taxes. Yet we've given them $3 billion every year that I've been alive. Just now, we gave another, like, I think they're trying to pass $13 billion for Israel. There's why do you care so much that you want to send all your taxes to Israel? It's insane. So I guess that's the main reason why I care. I don't think that we should be funding a genocide, and I don't think we should be, even if there, wasn't a genocide hypothetically. I think that zero taxpayer dollars should go to any other country besides the United States on the face of the earth.
Let's go to M.
Okay, sorry, one last question.
God,
Since
sorry.
he said he cares about conflict and genocide and all of that, you literally support Bashar al-Assad, and he murdered 500,000 Syrians. How come you still promote him and you still advocate for him? Isn't that a human rights crime? Does that not concern you, all the Syrians being killed in Syria? How is that not? How do you sleep at night supporting Bashar al-Assad and Putin, knowing that they support this shit?
Well, I do care about the Syrians. That's why I've spoken out so vociferously against the US and UK funded dirty war and the fact that Israel was arming, aiding, and providing medical support to Al Qaeda and ISIS against the Syrian government and their forces. I think it's criminal that Israel would align with Al Qaeda and ISIS in Syria. That's why I've spoken out against what they're doing there.
That is a lie, because because the US never supported ISIS. They are fighting ISIS. They were fighting ISIS with the Iraqi government in Syria. So I don't know where you get your information, but that's not accurate. And also, you keep kissing ass for Putin and Bashar al-Assad, and both of them are murderers. They're war criminals. And then you have the audacity to talk about Israel and pretend that you care about lives. You do not care about lives. You're a liar, and you're here for attention, and you should not be given a platform.
Mario,
That's it. Thank you.
Can I respond, Mario?
So you deny that Israel was supplying weapons to Al Qaeda and ISIS in Syria?
Of course, because that's a lie. That's a lie. Israel was fighting against that. Israel was fighting. They are fighting Al Qaeda. They are fighting ISIS because they would be the next target on the agenda. I don't know where you get.
Because Israel doesn't attack, or ISIS doesn't attack Israel. In a Times of Israel publication on January 14, 2019, IDF chief Gadi Eisenkot said that Israel did give the rebel groups, which is Al Qaeda and ISIS and Al Nusra and Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, light arms for self-defense. So they actually did arm the
I do not believe in that. I think that's a lie. There is no way. And by the way, Hamas and ISIS and all of the they're all funded by the Muslim Brotherhood. They're all funded. So Qatar was funding. Yes, 100%. If that's true, if that's even true what you are saying, which I don't believe in, and I need to see it, but I do not believe, because it does not make any sense.
Maybe I could link
the
Muslim
Brotherhood supported ISIS and they support Hamas. They are one and the same. Why would Israel support them? You are not making. Okay, but you're not making any sense.
Let me go. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, Jackson. Yeah, so we'll go. Yeah, so M, I'm gonna go to you, and then we'll go to Yehuda. M.
Thank you, Mario. Thank you, Jackson, for joining us and sharing your interesting opinions. I have four simple questions for you. The first one: how do you see the October 7th attack?
Sorry, you cut off for me a little bit. What did you say about October 7th?
How do you see the October 7th attack?
I see it as something that never would have happened if the U.S. wasn't funding Israel.
Of course. Do you know about the previous episodes of violence between the State of Israel and the armed Palestinian factions?
Am I aware? I'm aware, yeah.
Do you know about them? Do you know about the previous episodes of violence? Do you know their nature? Do you know why they started? Do you know why they ended or how they ended and so on and so forth?
Well, there were many. I guess we could say that I know Israel killed far more Palestinians in each one than Palestinians killed Israelis, including military personnel. And I also know that none of those would have happened had Israel not existed.
Sure. Are you familiar with the agreement that was in place prior to the October 7th attack?
Well, I don't know if that agreement had any grounding because just this year alone in the West Bank, where there's no, major Hamas outposts, Israel killed 173 Palestinians in the West Bank. So people say, oh, there was a peace, there was a truce before October 7th. Not really. Not really, no. I mean, I've reported multiple times over the past year alone in which Israel was bombing Syria, Aleppo, and Damascus, the oldest cities on the face of the earth. Israel was bombing, of course, Palestinian positions. And so what's your
Well,
point?
they were not really bombing the cities. They were interdicting arms shipments, but that is a different story. My final question, I'll hand over the mic. In your opinion, how do you envision a resolution for this conflict?
Well, I guess it depends if they have a extended ceasefire or not, but it's not my position as an American. They got to figure that out on their own.
Thank you. Back to you, Mary.
Yehuda?
Yeah, so a lot of too much stuff to unpack, so I can't go backwards. I think that for people with a 4-second attention span, Jason there can probably get them. But for most people, you made a bunch of claims. I just want to ask you a question. You said Israel gets all this money from the United States, and you don't think it's important. Mosab was trying to tell you that, in fact, it's a strategic investment in the region. Are you aware that the United States provides more money to Israel's neighbors than combined than it does to Israel? Are you aware of that?
Which neighbors are you referring to?
Egypt, Jordan, the Palestinian Authority, just to name 3. There's then Lebanon, Saudi Arabia, Iraq. Are you aware of that?
I'm aware that they give them a lot of money, and I'm aware that they're complicit in the occupation.
Didn't ask that. I asked you, are you aware that those countries receive, in total, if you actually start adding Iraq, 4 or 5 times more money than they give Israel? So if you want to stop giving Israel money,
I think you have to look at what I think you have to look at the nature of these governments and what they're doing. I mean, they're complicit with what Israel's doing.
No, I think you don't have to do that. I think you have to just answer the question. You make claims that America gives money to Israel, that's why it exists. And I'm telling you that America gives way more money to the neighbors around it. So if you want to stop money to Israel, you want to stop money everywhere, right?
Correct.
Okay. When did Israel start receiving money? You said 67. You talked about encroaching in land. When did Israel start receiving military loan guarantees from the United States? Do you know the year?
Well, I don't know the exact year, no, but I know that they were receiving U.S.
I do.
They were receiving. Wait.
Yeah.
I know that they were receiving U.S. support, or they were receiving Western weapons since at least 1948, because there's no way that the Nakba took place without any support from Western powers in providing them weapons.
It's amazing. I love it. What was the first country to recognize the state of Israel?
Well, that's it was the United States. Some people say it was the Soviet Union, but that's not true.
It was the Soviet Union. And do you know where Israel got its weapons to fight its war of independence from? Guess which bloc?
What's your proof that?
Just answer the question. Do you know which state gave Israel a first cache of weapons to defend itself against the Arab armies? It was Czechoslovakia. I won't waste everyone's time. So when did America get involved? The answer is 1967. So in the war that Israel won spectacularly, they were using World War II vintage British tanks that were rejigged. Okay, they were that they bought off the French. The Americans did not start arming Israel until they proved that they were a fighting force. Your whole argument that Israel exists at the behest of the United States is nonsense. It's crap. It's easily demonstrably false. So maybe
Yehuda, give him a second to respond to your question. Yehuda, give him a second to respond.
No, I think that's okay, Ryan. I think Jackson's had the most.
Mario, your mic is terrible. Mario, your mic is terrible.
Yeah, and Ryan, I don't think Jackson needs your help.
Yeah, I'll answer. No, I just looked it up. So, and correct me if I'm wrong. So I asked, what was the first country to recognize Israel? The U.S. was first on May 14th, 11 minutes after Israel's declaration of independence. Soviet Union was 3 days later, so about the same time, I'd say. And then the U.S. began providing financial assistance to Israel in 1950, 2 years after the establishment of Israel. The initial aid package consisted of $15 million in economic assistance. Military aid began in 1952 with a $2 million loan. Not sure if that's what you said, but I just Googled it once you asked it.
Yeah, no. So a lot of countries support Israel with financial assistance, which is meager sums. But the real American investment in American weaponry was in 1967, after the Six Day War. So that's the point. And the Soviet Union did give its approval to Ben Gurion before the Americans. They didn't formally do it until 3 days after the Americans, but the Soviets were first. I could send you the links to actual biographies, not Twitter, not Google searches, my friends. It's a very well known fact. But the bottom line is Hinkle's assertions here and throughout have always been that Israel exists at the behest of some cabal of people in the United States, and it just doesn't bear facts. And I challenge everyone. It's not hard to find out. Go to a library if you're so interested. Go to a library. I'm going to echo the comments of the Israeli woman and the Iraqi lady. It is a bit of a joke. People who live in the region, people who fought in the military for 25 plus years. Remember me, Hinkle, you said you're going to invade my country on a tank. I thought that was cute. We actually have skin in the game and we know what's going on. And we see through it,
but
all right?
okay.
So you could take
okay.
No. You want to make
You haven't let me talk once.
We'll let him. We'll finish off Yehuda and then I'll let Jackson respond.
Yeah. Thank you. You've had enough airtime. You've said a lot of outrageous things. The misogyny, the bigotry, I actually think you're doing it for trolls, and you're doing it, and that's fine. But I think the audience knows better, and I think you should be ashamed of yourself. I have to echo that sentiment. Thanks.
Okay, well, the only reason why Israel survived the 73 war was literally because of American weapons. If they didn't have them, they would have been wiped out. And we gave them more in 73 than ever before in history. So I don't know what your point is with regard to that.
Did I even mention 1973? I didn't even mention it.
But
can you answer one question? One question. Direct a question. You've gotten 5 of them.
Wait. Okay, stop.
We'll let him respond.
Okay, please ask him to answer the question.
Guy Jackson, if you can answer the question.
Yeah, I'd actually like to bring in Haz because Haz is familiar with the history of the recognition of Israel as a state. It was the United States who first recognized Israel. So bring up Haz as a speaker.
He's up, man. He's right next to you.
You don't want to answer my questions, Jackson.
Is he muted?
Yeah.
He brought reinforcement.
Wait. Haz, do you want to answer the question?
Yeah. So Zionists love talking about the miracle of 1967 and how they did it completely independently without anyone's help. First of all, that's not true whatsoever. They still did receive support from the West, even in that regard. But second of all, that was a fluke, is what you call. 1973, they would have been wiped off the face of the earth if not for the unprecedented supply of U.S. military arms and aid to Israel, which is what allowed that state to survive from that point onwards forever. And then even before then, there would be no Israel without the British Empire. There would be no Israel without the good graces and the behest of Western powers. So sitting here and pretending like Israel can sustain itself independently in that region because of 67, which was a severe miscalculation and blunder on its 67 was just a blunder on the Arabs' part. It didn't speak to the immortal and invincible strength of Israel whatsoever.
So just for the record, both of these gentlemen have refused to answer any of my questions. They've deflected to things I've never
what's your
about.
question? What's your question?
Very much. It's Mario's space. If he wants me to repeat it.
Yehuda, please. Yeah, if you could repeat it briefly, Yehuda, just so Haz, in case he missed it when I brought him up. Try your best.
So yeah, no worries. He needs help. I get it. I would say this. My questions were to Mr. Hinkle there. When you've made claims that Israel's received all of this money. Was he aware that the United States funds Israel's neighbors to about 4 times what they fund Israel? Number one. Number two. When that's one of them. Do you want to hear the rest of them, or do you want to answer one by one?
Let's go one by one, because that's a great point to bring up. So I'm not exactly sure if that's true collectively of all the Arabs they fund. Definitely, there's not a single country in that region the U.S. funds more than Israel. But I don't know if you know this. So we talked about 67 and 73, and hold on, this is relevant. Who were the participants in that conflict? I don't know if you know this, right? I'm sure you're also so I'm sure you're also aware of the history of Black September as well. So what the U.S. is doing when it's funding Egypt and Jordan and all these other countries is they're bribing those countries. That's the cost that we have to pay to those countries so that we don't see a repeat of 73, so that we don't see a repeat of Black September, so we don't see a full-scale regional unity to unite and wipe the Zionist entity off the face of the earth. So the fact that we give so much money to Egypt is literally on Israel's behalf. It's for Israel.
All right, we have someone from first of all, again, the word salad didn't make sense, but M is from Egypt. I think.
Okay, and then I'll simplify it for you. Don't, little boy, don't call me. Don't talk about word salad disrespecting me.
I'm not a little boy.
I'll simplify it for you. I'll simplify it for you.
Okay.
All of the money we give to Egypt and other neighboring countries is for Israel and no other reason.
Well, what about
I respond? Yeah, very, very briefly. 2 points. The first one, 1973. 1973 was waged on two fronts. Are you familiar with the fact that the fight on the Golan Heights, for instance, was completely reversed by the actions of several Israeli officers who were either part of armored divisions or mobile artillery, and that had nothing to do with the United States?
I doubt that it had nothing to do with the United States.
The reverse of the
bullshit.
situation. The reverse of the situation on the Golan Heights can be attributed specifically to two brave Israeli officers. That's the first point. The second point,
Yeah, and I'm gonna go ahead and say that's a bunch of
no.
bullshit.
Thank you very much. Well, according to every credible military historian, that's the case. Secondly, on the Egyptian front, on the Egyptian front, I'll give you two things. The act that the United States government initiated that reversed the tide on the Egyptian front specifically was deploying SR-71 Blackbirds to the Middle East. They flew in and they photographed the entire theater, and that intelligence was passed to the Israelis, and the Israelis managed to stage Operation Stout-Hearted Men and cross the Suez Canal to the western bank of the Suez Canal, and tried to advance to Suez, but they failed because they were beaten at the Battle of Suez. The second act was Operation HINKLE, which was an air bridge that sent equipment to Al Arish airport, where the Israelis continued to fight. However, two salient points regarding the Egyptian front. The first one is that Amman, the Israeli military intelligence, had a mole inside the Egyptian Special Operations Forces Command who betrayed behind enemy lines drop plans. That was a helicopter plan to insert special forces to prevent the Israelis from advancing to the second line of defense and allow the Egyptians to allow us to mobilize our air defense assets to the eastern bank of the Suez Canal, expand our bridgeheads, which were held at 10 to 15 kilometers, and allow us to advance to the middle of the Sinai. So the history of the war itself is fascinating. You don't know anything about it. Yes, the United States.
So I think you're kind of.
Hang on. Yes, the United States intervened, but no, the United States foreign military funding and foreign military sales program to Egypt amounts to $1.3 billion. Do you have any idea how much we spend on procurement of defense equipment? And do you have any idea that the state of Egypt has always had a diversified procurement policy for decades? And do you have any idea how much our GDP is? And do you have any idea how much of the foreign military sale money ends in American pockets? You're not bribing us, my guy. Egypt made a decision to change course. Egypt made a decision to adopt new policies. And what you get in return is two things. The first one is priority access to the Suez Canal, and the second one is overflight rights. That's it.
And also, don't forget the Soviet airlift into Egypt. He forgets that. I don't know. This guy
Okay,
doesn't know. This young man
the
doesn't know his
Soviet
own history.
Union's gone. Okay, well, the Soviet Union's gone, and you
So you
Zionists are
move
still
the goalpost.
and you
Move the
Zionists are still
goalpost.
leeching off. You're still leeching off my tax dollars. Sit down, little boy. I own you.
I'm not sure.
Anyway,
I'm not sure.
anyway,
I'm not sure you have tax
let's
dollars.
continue.
Hang on, Yehuda.
Gentlemen, one at a time, please.
Sure, Ryan. Your
So-
tax dollars
so I can-
your tax dollars are spent inside the United.
Go ahead.
Did it cut out? Yeah, no,
Yeah,
I
you
think
cut out.
yeah, no, the mute all button played up again.
Your tax dollars are spent inside the United States. They're not spent inside Egypt.
Okay, well, so you spent a lot of time floundering to ignore the basic point about the 1973 war. You said that, oh, we gave them some equipment. This was the largest airlift in the entirety of U.S. history, more than the Berlin airlift, which we used to actually secure the Western Europe as our permanent ally in the Cold War. Okay, so this was a big deal. And we gave them what, like 22,000 tons of equipment. It was the largest supply, I think, I could be wrong about this, of U.S. military aid to any country ever that I could, in the amount of time,
You've
in
not
the
answered
time
any
period,
questions.
in the time period that it was. So now it's your time to answer the question. Why is it that the only reason Israel could win in 1973 was because of U.S. military equipment and aid? Why was that?
Great.
If they're so
I'll
native
answer
to the
it.
It's
region,
very
No,
simple.
I'll
It's
answer.
very
I'll
simple.
answer. I'll
Hang on,
answer.
Yehuda. Hang on, please. It's very simple. Israeli security has always been built on three pillars: deterrence, early detection, and decisive victory in a short period of time. And the fourth pillar has always been United States support. That's what Sadat realized back in
okay.
1973, when
Okay.
for the
Just to be
first
clear,
time, for the first time, an Egyptian air defense battery was taken out using a standoff missile that was fired 32 kilometers far. It's fine. That's what happens in wars. And we would have gladly destroyed that equipment had we
I
not
think,
had a
look,
mole within
I'll answer the
our.
question.
so
Let
on
me answer
behalf
the
of the
question.
on behalf of the Americans in here, I think you're just ignoring this point. So are you
I'll
committed
answer
to
it. I'll
saying,
answer it.
are
I'll
you
answer it.
committed to the view? Hold on, are you committed to the view that we don't have to give you any more of our tax dollars and you can be completely self-reliant? Will you commit to that politically?
Please end the foreign military sale program. I beg you to end the foreign military sale program if you can, because you know what? The Obama administration
Will you
tried this
oppose
in
it?
2013 and failed.
Would you oppose politically the view that we cut off all aid to Israel? Would you be fine with that? What about removing our naval fleet from the Mediterranean?
It's not for me.
Why
It's
do we
not for
have
me
to
to
send?
answer.
Why do we have to
Let me
send our
answer.
navy? Why do we have to send our navy, our like biggest navy assets, to the Mediterranean region to protect Israel? Why do we have to do that? If Israel's so
You're not
strong and
protecting
mighty,
Israel. You're preventing the region from
okay.
going into a full-scale war. You're not protecting Israel. Israel can protect itself. You're basically deterring Hezbollah and deterring other regional actors from dragging the region into a full confrontation.
Okay. So, from an Israeli perspective, I should answer the question.
You mean dragging a confrontation between the Zionists
This. Israel is very well known, had intelligence at the your mic's on, Joder. So you say that Israel wouldn't have existed. At the end of the day, the airlift, Golda Meir demanded resupply because she felt that she did what the Americans asked by not preempting. It wasn't on the cards. So the Americans did what they did. The Soviets had already been resupplying the Egyptians, and this was a Cold War. You might not know what the Cold War was, but it's an actual thing. So America and the Soviet Union went head to head in many theaters around the world. The Israelis did what they did. They followed the rules, so to speak. They were told they can't do a preemptive war that would plunge the region into chaos again and cause another oil embargo, which it did anyway. So they didn't. So at the end of the day, I'm not sure you realize Israel didn't just defend itself. It crossed the Suez Canal. It was short of Cairo. The Soviets had to cry. Your tanky Soviets had to cry to the Americans and say, "Stop Israel right now. We can't lose Sadat." So I'm not sure how you turn an enormous military victory after some mishaps into some strategic defeat for Israel. It's counter-logical. It's nonsensical. Anyone with two eyes and two brain cells can read it for themselves. You could live in a fantasy land all you want, but it doesn't mean other people have to believe you. It's not rocket science. For you, it might be, especially you. And if you're the guy that Jason HINKLE here brought up to talk points, you still haven't answered the first 4 points. 67, 48, 56. But you mentioned 73 like it's some great victory. The Arab world lost in 73. You're turning losses into victories. It's
Are you done
bizarre.
with your tantrum? Are you done with
No,
this
that's not a
tantrum? Can I
tantrum. Listen,
respond? Okay.
I could go at
Are you
harmony.
done yet?
I'm not done.
Go ahead, Judah. We'll let you wrap up so you can respond. Go ahead.
Thank you. I'll wrap up. I don't make ad hominems against you, although you make it so easy to do so. So don't call me a little boy while you're being silly. You're being childish just like your buddy. Why don't you answer any of the questions I posed? Instead of talking about, if you want to talk about 73, I just talked about it. Answer the other
All right,
questions.
you're tether
Right,
babbling.
Yehuda,
Tether
give him a
babbling.
second to answer. Haz, go ahead. Haz, go ahead.
Okay, thanks for the tether babble. Anyway, I think you ignored the point. I didn't necessarily say the Arabs won in 73. I said the only reason they didn't win was because of US aid. I think you conveniently ignored that point. You said that the Soviet Union also funded the Arabs, true, but in the 73 war, let's just take it there, the Soviet aid for the Arabs comes nowhere close to US aid for Israel, which was the largest American airlift in the entire history of this country, okay? And again, I may be wrong about this, but in the short period of time, I'm pretty sure we have never given any country more aid within the short span of time in which we did for that war. And you're just saying, like,
you're wrong.
hold on.
About
Wait. Where are the moderators? Where are the moderators?
Guys,
I can't
Yehuda, give
interrupt.
him a second. Yehuda, you asked him a question. You want him to answer. Give him
Yeah.
2 seconds to answer, and then you can respond.
Listen, he's got this tether babble where he's got to throw tantrums. Why don't you wait a second, little boy? Sit down. Anyway, what we're talking about here is that the Soviet Union is gone, and right now, the Soviets don't help Iran. They're gone. They're not helping Hezbollah. They're not helping Hamas. Instead, you have regional actors that are confronting the Zionist entity who are within the same region. So it begs the question, why is it that the Zionist entity relies on foreign aid halfway across the world just to exist as a country, whereas all these other forces in the region are claiming that Golda Meir only demanded the thing because she was doing the Americans a favor? But why is it that Israel was suffering major drawbacks and defeats in 73 until we gave them a steady supply of aid that allowed them to fend the Arabs off? If what you're saying was true, then they wouldn't have needed the American aid in the first place to reverse the tides of that war, but they did.
Okay, here's my answer. So you keep ignoring the simple fact that the Soviets' airlift was equally as large, number one, to Egypt and Syria. Number two, from 67 to
What's your source?
73. So I'll give you my sources. You just stop. You gave 0 sources. I can provide you with sources. You stop now, little boy. So from 67 to 73, the Egyptians and Syrians received almost anything they wanted. Not the best of the best, but way more than Israel got from the United States. They had almost the newest MiGs. The Israelis did not get the same from the Americans. So you ignore history. You ignore the last 5 years or 6 years before 73 and pretend it didn't happen. It doesn't make sense. And what you don't know, because you've obviously never studied military history, but I'll educate you for free, the Israelis actually started turning the tables when Egypt did a tactical error, when they decided to move their forces outside of their air defense umbrella. So you don't know what you're talking about. None of what you say plays out. And the problem is, this is the problem with this space or Twitter spaces or having conversations where people aren't knowledgeable, especially someone like you, is that it would take the listener a lot of time to read this. You have to read history books. You have to don't read 1, read 10 from different sources. What you say does not pan out. You're a child. You have no idea what you're talking about. Shame on you. I'll leave it to M to school. He's from Egypt, knows a lot more about it. Maybe you should get off the internet there, Call of Duty, buddy.
Let's Haz, I'll let you respond. Haz will go to Piotr.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Haz.
Yeah, I think that was just a big tantrum. You did try to make the point that actually Egypt made the blunder before Israel received any aid. That's not true. The only reason Israel was able to prevail in that war, everyone knows this, is because we gave them billions of it in aid. And basically, they're tethers who rely entirely on the U.S. in order to exist. Since then, you claim that the Soviets equipped the Arabs to an equal extent in 1973. I'd like to see the source on that. I think you just made that up. It's not true. And even if it was, the Soviet Union's no longer around. And we can see Israel needs the United States to confront Iran, Hamas, and Hezbollah, but those countries don't need anyone else in order to confront Israel. So I rest my case.
I need to say two quick points. And I'll shut up.
Yeah, quick, and then we'll go to Piotr. Go ahead.
2 quick points. The first one, the biggest piece of agitation propaganda against Egypt was claiming that Egypt lost in 1973. For the record, Egypt won in 1973 because the military operation was aimed as a limited military operation with specific goals. According to several American officers who studied this, I'll refer you to one paper, just one paper of many. It's called The Illusion of Defeat, Egyptian Strategic Thinking. by Lieutenant Colonel Stephen R. and the Foreign Military Funding Program for Egypt starting in 1979 was because we actually won this war and we expressed intent to build and maintain a sustainable peace. And that's why the attack of October 7th was modeled after 1973, because the Arabs want to drag us back into this. And we will not be dragged back into this because we offered them comprehensive peace in 1979 and they said no.
It's got it, Piotr?
Yeah, I find it rather entertaining that the last point from the right honourable gentleman is, you talk about America having to defend Israel and come to their defence. Well, what the hell do the Iranians have to do with the Russians and the Chinese? It's exactly the same. So can we stop being so hypocritical and only identifying that the Israelis need the defence of the Americans, which is not really that true, versus the Iranians that don't apparently need the defence of the Russians. Point two.
They don't. They really don't.
Yeah, no, point two is sort of, Jackson, you have to get Haz to come and join you because you're so struggling on the back foot that you need your counterpart to come and join you. I've read about what Haz has worked on you with, so very interesting. And thirdly, can you guys not actually understand the difference between strategical deterrence and forcibly coming into the backyard to shoot a bunch of shit up, to use an official statement, right? If the Americans,
like we did in Iraq,
strike group forces all over the world, are going to have them in Europe, partially because of the world, it's not that far for them to sail and then just be there, presence. They haven't done anything yet. They didn't make the initial shots. It was Hamas that made the initial shots. We can talk about the historical legacies. You can go back and forth with Yehuda and M on that. But the Americans have not actually done anything yet to attack the others. They're just intercepting the missiles for the Houthis. So can you explain to me the difference? Because if the Americans wanted to blanket the Middle East, they probably could do that. Not that I endorse such an action.
Yeah, sure. So the first thing is that you said the Iranians need the Chinese and the Russians. This is patently not true. They do have economic ties, but those are mutually beneficial, based on trade, not based on freebies like we give to the Zionists. So you're wrong about that. Iran is pretty self-reliant, far more than the Zionist entity or any other country for that matter, because of how intense the sanctions they're under are, actually. So that was a complete non-point. No, Russia and China's role in the region is nowhere near analogous or comparable to the U.S.'s in regards to Israel. Now, you claim that the U.S. sent the naval fleet as a deterrence. I agree, but as a deterrence for who? As a deterrence for regional actors not to threaten the existence of the Zionist entity, not to prevent World War III or prevent chaos in this vague terms. No, it's very concretely. We are putting our soldiers on the line. Would not exist without shows of force like this. If we didn't have our Navy out there, what would happen? Iran, Hezbollah, Hamas, I mean, they probably roll Israel and there's nothing they would be able to do about it. So they need the U.S. to come and act as a
That's not true. Hold on, Craig, one
That's
second.
very true,
That's not,
BZ.
no, it's
That's
not
very
true.
true.
Ryan,
How is
Ryan,
that not
Ryan.
true?
Okay, you need to let me answer,
BZ,
Ryan.
15,
Wait,
BZ, 15
I
minutes,
can
Ryan,
one
Ryan,
second.
let me finish.
I have a
BZ,
resolution.
15
I have
minutes
a
into the
resolution.
war, they've called the U.S.
Ryan,
asking for money for more weapons.
you need to let me finish. Okay, if any country now rolled into Israel, that country would not exist. Are you not aware of Israel's capabilities? The reason
I'm
why the
aware.
U.S.
Then
Okay,
why do you
the
need our
reason
money? Why do you need our
you need to
taxes
let
and
me finish.
Exactly.
nations?
You need to let
BZ,
me
Why?
finish.
15
Okay,
minutes into the
you need to
war.
let me finish. You need to
Guys,
let me
let's
finish.
see.
Okay?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, one of the reasons why other countries, specifically the U.S., support Israel militarily is because they do not want Israel to handle things should it get to that, all right? The notion that any country is going to roll tanks in with or without U.S. support is absurd, because that country wouldn't exist anymore. Within 5 minutes, the war would be over. Within 5 minutes, that the country that was aggressive would not exist. Everyone
I
knows that.
disagree. I disagree. BZ,
So
why
wait,
then? Why? Hold
if
on,
I
pause one
understand,
second. Then why within
hold on.
15
Wait,
minutes? Then why? No,
So
hold
let's
on,
go,
guys.
Craig.
One
Hold
second.
on, Ryan, and then
1
Haz,
second, please.
and then Craig.
Then BZ, if they're this big powerful powerhouse, why do they need so much money for weapons? 15 minutes into the war, they reached out to the Senate asking for billions of dollars for money and weapons, and then they reached out asking for missiles for the Iron Dome system. So they technically need us, man. They need us, or else they'd be in trouble. Let's be honest here.
No. So the reason why that happens is the United States does not want Israel to view it as an existential threat, because that would
No,
be.
man. They need
Well,
the
Ryan, you're wrong.
weaponry.
No. You're wrong. So, do you actually think that Israel is not? I don't want to get too specific about their
Go ahead, be
defense.
specific. It's okay.
Okay, so Israel has a stated policy of neither confirming nor denying that they are in possession of certain weapons. Right? It was either
Nukes.
Yom Kippur. It was either in Yom Kippur.
oh, they got the nukes. Oh no.
Okay, has. Shh, uskut. Hold on. Are you not from? I think it was M. Was it? Or Peter would know. It was either 67 or the Yom Kippur War, which one of the reasons why America started supporting Israel more is because there was a plan to drop a
1973.
Right.
The foreign minister,
Yeah.
I think it was, basically alluded that if they didn't get some more
Correct.
support in the future, they'd have to resort to tactical nuclear warfare.
Correct.
I do have another
Right.
question.
It was golden.
Wait,
Yeah, but BZ,
I
you're
just
aware
have
of
to.
how
I want to
small.
bring
You
in.
need to let me finish. You need to let me finish. I'll be 2
Go ahead,
minutes. I
finish. Then
promise.
I'd like to respond.
Yeah, quickly, Zev.
Absolutely.
It's
Right.
a bit
Yeah.
shorter
And there
than
was
2
a
minutes, please.
okay. So there
20
was
seconds
a
would be perfect. We'll go to Haz.
Yeah,
If
so there
possible,
was
Ryan.
a plan as a show of strength to blow up a mountain on the Israel. It was either Israel or Syria or Israel-Lebanon border as a show of deterrence to belligerent countries. That was dropped. Okay, so the reason why America is supporting Israel militarily, look, it's a Western liberal democracy. They have things aligned. They're allies. What are they going to align with? Hamas, Hezbollah, Iran. Secondly, the notion that any nation will just roll into Israel would be the end of the Middle East. Period. And Israel is
Okay,
more
I'd like to
than
Let's
willing
go.
respond.
to do
I'd
that.
like to respond to.
Ryan, quickly, and then
Yeah.
we'll go to Haz.
First of all, BZ, you just can't drop a nuke into a country that's so close to you. You'd have the fallout that would burn you. So that's one right there
So
with
you
the
didn't
whole
hear the
nuclear
last part of
argument.
what I said.
Second of all,
That's
hold on.
what I just said, though.
Okay,
That's what I
let's
just
let him
said.
finish.
I
That's what I
understand.
just said.
So the whole idea of they're helping them because they have a nuke that they would use. A nuke is useless to them for a country that close to them. One, two. Anyone who quote unquote rolls in, yes, it would be a problem because they'd be reaching out. They'd have no one to reach out to fill their piggy banks. Man, they need the weaponry. That's why they reached out 15 minutes into the war for weaponry. And I know you're saying that they have a nuke, yes, but again, just like you said, they can't use it. So, AKA, they need the U.S.
Sure
for the
they can.
weaponry.
Sure they can. I never said
Henceforth,
that.
they
Let's
You
go.
need
need
to
us.
go read the Samson Doctrine. End of
Let's go.
story.
So
Guys,
I think
Haz, go ahead.
I think I find it a little amusing. So to summarize my opponent's argument here, it sounds like what they're saying is that the reason the U.S. supports Israel isn't because Israel needs us. Actually, what the U.S. is doing is protecting the Arabs and protecting Iran. We fund Israel because Israel's so strong and mighty that we have to prevent the powerful God that is Israel from wiping out and killing and destroying all. We're actually doing Iran a favor, is what he's saying. I mean, if this was a comedy routine, I'd give you a 10 out of 10. But if we're speaking in terms of a description of reality, it's completely delusional. The Samson Doctrine, we have every reason to believe that it's a bluff. I don't think that the banksters that run Israel and the oligarchs are going to put their lives on the line for that state. If Israel ever faced an existential threat, what they would do is flee. They'd pack their bags and they would run. They're not going to die for it. Maybe there's some fanatics in Jerusalem or some settlers or some Haredi who might die for it. I don't know, who actually believe in the religion. But those aren't the people that run Israel. So I for all intents and purposes, I think that whole doctrine, nuclear deterrence doctrine Israel has, is a bluff. But let's say in the odd event that it wasn't a bluff. Let's say that because they lost a conventional war, they would be willing to use nuclear weapons. Then if it was any other country, they would be treated by the international community as a dangerous rogue state because the use of nuclear weapons is just unprecedented. It's just not tolerated from the perspective of international norms. So the idea that we have to, even if we believe the nonsense that you're saying, that we bribe Israel into not going full, full beast mode, so to speak, and that we're just preventing this powerful, mighty beast from unleashing its true potential. It's such nonsense. Even if that was true, Why are we appeasing this clearly violent, maniacal, crazy, insane, reckless country that's just going to use nukes willy-nilly unless we give them
As
money,
opposed to
arms, and aid?
Syria,
Okay, so I
Iran,
gotta
Let's
those
go to
wonderful
Craig.
beacons of
Craig,
democracy,
yeah.
right?
Let's have Craig. Craig, go ahead.
So first of all, you guys are looking way too small. Okay, way too small. Put up what we give to Israel versus what we give to Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Turkey, and others. Okay, this is small ball. Okay, for the United
Yeah,
States, our defense
combined,
budget.
maybe combined.
Yeah. Okay, great. Yeah, great. So our defense budget is $900 billion. Okay, nearing $1 trillion. Okay, so what you're talking about in terms of Israel is small potatoes. I am a U.S. citizen. In fact, unlike you, unlike other people, I actually pay taxes, right? Because I work for a
And you
living
have dual
essentially on
loyalty.
Twitter. So what I'm saying to you is that your little complaints about 4 billion and 5 billion and all the rest of this stuff is nothing. We maintain 11 aircraft carriers, a nuclear deterrent, a two-front war capacity that we waged for 20 years with a global war on terrorism. Your little $4 billion like little hiccup is nothing in the grand scheme of things. We have two aircraft carrier battle groups that are in the Middle East. Okay, we could put 6 there if we wanted to. There's nothing anybody could about it. Okay, the United States Navy is the unqualified
Craig, to
master
fact
of the
check you,
oceans of the
actually,
world.
Craig, to fact check you.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Ryan.
No, to fact check you, Israel is the #1 recipient of foreign aid. Then it's Afghanistan, Egypt, Jordan, Tanzania, Uganda, and other African nations. So Israel is the largest receiver of foreign
He
aid.
said
So
collectively.
just to kind of course correct you there.
Collectively, he said.
Can I finish?
So I mean,
Yes,
I
that's what I'm
could
saying.
play with the math too and make this small and that big, but I'm just
Okay,
saying.
so let me make this.
Objectively,
So let me help you
they're
out,
the
Ryan.
largest.
So let me help you out, Ryan.
I don't think I
Okay?
need help.
Yeah, you do.
Okay, well, $4 billion is nothing to the United States. If we wanted to, let me make this crystal clear in terms of economics. If we wanted to raise the highest taxable rate from 36 to 39, we would raise over $1 trillion in tax revenue just by a 3% increase. Okay, you guys have no idea what you're talking about in terms of economics. If we wanted
Craig,
to
as a
unleash
U.S.
the full,
citizen,
I'm not done talking yet. You guys have had unfettered access to continue talk. Thank you. This is nothing. This aid to Israel is nothing to the United States. It is a blip on the radar screen of Wall Street every single day. When you compare United States GDP, which is $19 trillion, and our tax base is the strongest in the world, if we raised our tax rate 1% to the top 1%, we would raise over $500 billion. And unlike a lot of people that are listening here, people don't pay taxes. So when they complain about, oh, my tax dollars, if you boil down the numbers, unless you're making $150,000 a year, you're not paying taxes, okay? You're a net suck to the economy. And in terms of the
What?
United
Okay,
States,
Craig, as someone who does pay taxes, Craig, as someone who does pay taxes, for the record, I care where my money goes, and I don't want it to go funding proxy wars out of left and right. So just for the record.
Okay, great. So let me conclude on this. So here's my conclusion to whether or not you have a problem with foreign aid. Let me be absolutely clear. This is a stability price index discount that we get. The more we stabilize a region, the less prices go up. The more instability, the higher prices go. So if we secure,
Craig, how is this stable? We just started a second proxy war. How is this stable?
I'm not done talking. Okay, you guys just continuously interrupt me. I've been listening, and you guys argue back and forth. I'm giving you basic economics. The United States enjoys a stability discount, which means the more stable regions are, the lower prices are. It is
the opposite is true in reality.
Within our national and consumer.
I can't hear you, but I want you to cut in.
The truth is,
go ahead, Jackson. Go ahead, Jackson.
I gotta briefly respond.
Guys, hold on, guys. Go ahead, Jackson.
No, you have no.
The truth is that the truth is that if none of these countries were attacking, none of these countries.
All right, let's talk about the stability price index, because I just want to briefly make a point. For the stability we're trading is that we earn the ire of the overwhelming majority of everyone living in that region. There's a unanimous consensus on part of the people that they hate Israel. They don't want it to exist. We have to bribe their governments in order to keep their people in check, to prevent them from taking power and doing anything about it. And the stability we're trading is we have the whole Islamic world hate us, but this one tiny piece of shit country likes us. How is that stable? That doesn't make any sense. That's a horrible deal. Why don't we just let Israel? If we let Israel just get destroyed, everything will be much more stable than it is now.
Not only that, but if you look at Russia, if you look at China, they're doing plenty of open, free trade with all these countries. They're doing great trade with Iran, who is joining BRICS very soon. And I mean, Iran in April was, I think, the fourth or fifth largest oil producer in the world. So why
Oh
does it
yes,
make
yes,
any
the
sense?
BRICS where
Why did
Argentina's having
wait,
to
don't interrupt me.
dollarize.
Don't
Is that
interrupt me.
right?
Don't interrupt me, little boy. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Haz
Look,
brings up
mate, come on, buddy.
a great
You're admitting like a come on,
Haz brings up
come on. You're
wait,
speaking up. Let's have some. Let's have.
moderators. I'm in the middle of a sentence. This guy interrupts me. I don't even know who this
Haz,
guy
go
is.
ahead. Haz, go ahead.
So Haz brings up a great point. He says that by supporting Israel, we're actually creating more instability. Not only are we pissing off all these Arab states and we're pissing off the Persians, we're also dumping billions of dollars in the process to do it. You guys act like a few $1 billion is no big deal. Well, $3 billion over however many years we've been giving them $3 billion is a lot of money. At the drop of a dime, the U.S. House of Representatives approved $14 billion for Israel when this all started on October 7th at the drop of the dime. That's like 16% of Russia's annual military budget for the largest landmass country on the face of the earth. So how are you going to act like it's not a big deal when we're shelling out $14 billion, again, 16% of Russia's whole military budget at the drop of a dime? It'd make way more sense as an American if we stop funding Israel and we let what happens happens. We let it play out, as Trump said. He made a very good point. And then we move forward with there and we establish good relations with all these countries that currently hate us.
Craig, is your
So
mic
I've actually
working
got
now?
a question for you guys. I'm actually kind of curious because you guys seem to love Trump, even though he really doesn't do great things for a certain American interest. Why do you think isolationism is the right way forward? Why do you think that America turning inward and not helping the world in any way? Yes, you can say that they didn't help in certain ways, but like, do you think that if we just let
Yeah,
the Russians and the Chinese and the
I'll
Iranians and
answer your
whoever it is
question.
go round and
I'll
round and
answer
round and no, hang on. So very simple. Why do you think isolationism is a grand
isolationism. I'll
strategy
answer your
work,
question.
Jackson?
So
But why does it
isolationism,
work? It didn't work in the 1930s. It
I'll
didn't
answer your
work in the
question.
1850s. It hasn't worked in
I'll
the
answer.
1880s. So
Okay,
why is it
you
going to
asked
work
your
now?
question. So
Yeah.
isolationism is what the U.S. is currently moving forward with. Isolationism is the idea that any country who doesn't abide by our foreign policy dictates, any country that doesn't agree with our transgender ideology, any country that doesn't, beckon to the call of the IMF and Wall Street is going to be sanctioned. They're not going to do business with us or any of our allies. And slowly but surely, we're beginning to sanction the entire world. So you're saying that Trump is pushing isolationism. No, Trump's going to meet with Putin. Trump's going to meet with Kim Jong-un. Trump is trying to do all. I mean, he's not perfect, right?
Not
I
what I
think he's made
said,
a lot
brother.
of big
It's not
mistakes.
what
Wait,
I
let me
said.
just answer your question.
No,
You had a
no, because
question.
you
Let me
didn't answer
just
the
let me just
question,
answer your
Jackson,
question.
as usual.
Let me just answer your question. So Trump is actually the one who's reaching out across the aisle with all the countries that previous, oligarchs in the West said we cannot do business with, and he's trying to make amends with them. That's good. That's good. I think that the current regime, Biden, are the ones who are actually pushing for the isolationism.
Right. So I'll agree with you in one thing, which is that transactionality as a foreign policy is something that's maybe more useful. I don't think the values-based system that the West is pushing really has any more legs to stand on. But you can't seriously suggest that the isolationism that Trump basically wants is the best for the United States. How on earth do you think
Trump's
your
not
career
pushing for.
operates as an
That's a
isolationist?
conspiracy theory. That's a conspiracy theory. Trump's
What's
not
a
pushing for
conspiracy theory?
isolation.
You do know what Trump's policy has actually been, right? He wants to put
In
America first. He
in
wants to
actuality, the Biden
isolate American
administration.
industry. He wants to stop.
In
No, in
actuality, the Biden
actuality, he
Listen,
doesn't.
administration,
let's
the
let's
Biden
just go about guys.
administration,
Yes. All right, Jackson, I'll let you respond, then we'll go to Tira.
in actuality, the Biden administration is cutting us off from the world's largest oil producers at the same time that it's not developing our own oil and gas and nuclear in the United States. It's cutting America off from the cheapest oil, the cheapest gas on the face of the earth. And it's doing this all in the name of protecting Israel, which no one cares about here. 63% of
So
Americans say
Jackson,
that they support a
why did
ceasefire.
President Xi come
Let me
to
get
Biden
Piotr.
at
Let
the
me.
summit
I just
last week?
can't.
One
Piotr,
second, Mary, just last point, and then I'll
quickly,
shut up.
please. Then we'll go to Tira.
Yeah. Just Jackson. President Xi came to APEC meeting. He came to California, and he basically said, "quote We have no plans to invade Taiwan. Why? because the Americans, the Japanese, the Dutch, and a whole lot of other countries in the Southeast Asian theater are pressuring the Chinese, and they can't handle it. The economy cannot handle it. So I do not think, really, in your perspective, that America is isolating itself. Biden is doing a better job of building alliances and deepening partnerships against the countries that it considers a threat. And if Trump does that, alternatively, then that will weaken America more than you think we're weakening ourselves now. I guarantee.
Yeah, you're leaving out the very important details that the U.S. is training and arming Taiwanese separatists in Taiwan right now and has been for the past several years, even under the Trump administration. You're leaving out the fact that Biden
So you
called
like
Xi.
that then?
Wait.
You're
You're leaving out the fact that Biden called Xi a dictator the day after he met with him, and Antony Blinken cringed his face off when he did that because everyone knows that that was a really bad move. And you're also leaving out the point that the official stated doctrine of the Communist Party of China is to push for peaceful reunification with Taiwan. They easily could go and take Taiwan right now if they wanted to, but they don't see the need to it because they want to peacefully reunite. Colonel Douglas McGregor was Trump's senior Pentagon advisor. He would have been Secretary of Defense if we didn't have a bunch of war hawks in the Senate. He himself said that there's no way that a real war breaks out over Taiwan, because if that happens, what is the U.S. going to do? Maybe send a few of our ships over there. They're going to get sunk immediately. There's no means that the U.S. or any Western powers have to defend Taiwan against the Chinese military,
you are
who's been
joking,
preparing
though,
for
right?
this for
You
years.
are
Let me go.
kidding right now.
Let me go.
I'm so apparently I'm wrong about this, but Trump's own Pentagon advisor, who's on the inside and was preparing for all of this,
Yeah, the only
knew that
person
it would
you
have
can
been
get
a
on the channel
miserable,
because he
a
can't
Tira,
get
miserable.
Tira, jump in,
Yeah,
Tira.
could I? Okay, so number one, if we talk about Donald Trump's policy, then there is a problem for some people because, of course, Donald Trump has recently stated that he would ban anyone from the United States who supports Gaza, that he would in fact expel anyone who supports Hamas, that he would ban Muslims, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. His policy is much more draconian than what I suspect some of the people on this stage have suggested. He has done this recently. He has done it repeatedly. It's not an accident. That is his policy. His policy in terms of Israel was quite supportive and still, in fact, is the Abraham Accords were a Trump policy, right? Those were basically saying, we want to make peace. We want to exclude the Palestinians, in effect, from peace. We want to make peace between Saudi Arabia and Israel, between Morocco and Israel, between UAE and Israel, etc. That was his policy. I assume that is still his policy. So the concept of Trump as a savior is a little, I don't even understand it, because in fact he is far more right wing on these things than anyone else, and you would find people being excluded, people being banned. Now you might like that, but it's not exactly what Jackson, for example, has been saying. In terms of what Piotr is saying, I have to agree. There is a fundamental lack of understanding of historical necessities and how we get where we get to. You can say that we should not give any foreign aid to anyone. I understand that, but I actually don't understand that. The United States has, in general, been stronger because it has allies. We all know why NATO was put into place. It was to stop Russian aggression, etc. Many more countries have moved to NATO. Obviously, what's happening in Ukraine is not ideal, but in effect, it has been successful. The reason why United States gives aid to Israel is because it was one of the few functioning democracies in the area. It gives us military intelligence. It gives us a lot of intelligence. It gives us military technology, etc. Now, once again, this is the United States strategic plan is to support people who support it. I do not believe that we are in a better world if the United States is isolated. Then it seems to me that you're being
That's exactly
We
what we're
should let
saying. We're saying zero
we should
foreign
we
aid to
should let
anyone.
we should let Firas speak because he can probably speak on the history a little. But before, I just want to say that the reason we support quote unquote isolationism is for two reasons. One, and I'd reject the premise, obviously, as Jackson pointed out. But the reason we don't want us to get involved is one, we want us to be able to spend our money at home and actually solve America's problems first before anything else. Two, to send it overseas. Fuck that, right? Anyway, go ahead, Firas.
Can I just respond to that? The government probably doesn't
Go
take
ahead,
half
Tira.
of your money. I don't
Go
think
ahead,
the
sir.
government takes half of your specific money. I would find that unlikely. And once again,
This idea that if
They
we
literally
somehow
do. They literally do. And
wait,
everything I
stop,
make in a year, they take half.
pause, please, calm down, okay?
Let's not argue
The
tax brackets here.
well, yeah, don't do that with me. The concept that once again, as I just said, that if we didn't give foreign aid to people, we'd be somehow curing cancer, getting rid of homelessness is sort of nonsensical. It has not happened. We don't have the appetite for that. So that is really not going to happen. Right. So
Tira,
it's
can I
not
ask
like we're going to
why?
take that money, etc. Because we do not, because we have a country that basically believes, Republicans believe that social
have that than getting all moldy and infested with cockroaches. I'd rather have that than my taxpayer dollars be sent to some genocidal regime like Israel, some Nazi state like Ukraine. There's no reason why we should be sending any dollars to any state other than keeping it in our own coffers.
Yeah, but can't you guys both agree that there's a spectrum, right? Actually, to be serious for a second instead of childish, but isolationism is Maximus scenario. Why can't the US be restrained? I don't agree in forever.
One second, I'm sorry.
Hold on a second.
Guys, let Viv go. Viv, go ahead.
Viva,
go ahead. Guys, please let him finish so he can answer he can ask Haas the question. Viva, go ahead.
The mute button was going on. Genocide has been redefined more broadly now to involve displacement. That's exactly the argument being used as to what Israel is doing in Gaza right now, displacing people from their homes, and that's being referred to as genocide. I didn't make this new definition up. It's the one being used now to call Israel genocidal. So even by your utopic, idiotic argument that, oh, I didn't mean when I say wipe them off the map, I didn't mean kill them. We're just going to displace them. Who's promoting the genocide here? And if your argument is that, but for the support, Israel would be wiped off the map, I don't want you making that support on behalf of me, because it seems that you're arguing now there is a genocidal force here, and but for the support that Israel may or may not have been getting from the Americas, they would have been wiped off the map in 73, and given the chance again, they'll be wiped off the map in the future.
Yeah, but it's just not going to
Yeah.
happen. I think we have to face reality. The state of Israel is not going to be dismantled. I mean, people need to get over and look for real solutions to the conflict.
BZ,
So
he's giving you
BZ,
what he's saying.
able.
Hold on, BZ. What
Go
Haas
ahead,
is saying is a scenario that if there is no help from outside forces on their own, they would not be able to fight a war. And I think what he's
Okay,
saying
but that's
makes
what
sense
he's
because, as we've
saying.
seen,
That's what he's
BZ.
saying. That doesn't mean what he says is true.
No,
So to be able to respond,
but based off
I
of
want to be.
historically of what he's saying, based off of the asks for weapons and money, it does make sense what he's saying. And I'm not justifying a genocide or asking for it. He's just talking in terms of borders of a country, like he mentioned, apartheid South Africa. Haas, go ahead.
So to be clear, I think people are a little confused. So first of all, the destruction of a state doesn't necessarily entail displacement or killing of anyone. It just means that that state, as the highest form of sovereign authority, would cease to exist and probably be subsumed by some other kind of state authority. The PFLP, for example, has an idea of a democratic state, a single state, Palestine, of Jews, Muslims, and Christians, who are all equal, right? So the destruction of Israel doesn't necessarily mean everyone's displaced. But by your logic, if the definition of genocide includes displacement, then we have to reckon ourselves with the following fact: the so-called state of Israel and every single foreigner that's living there, it's predicated on genocide. The Napka, they had to expel the Palestinians and displace them in order to construct their state to begin with. So this is a genocidal state, and if the Palestinians would so decide that they would like to expel all of these foreign people who came, I mean, it's not up to me, but if they decided that and it was carried out in a peaceful manner, I don't see what's so genocidal about that when the whole state was premised on ethnic cleansing and genocide to begin with. I mean, what moral authority would Zionists have to complain about that when the entire state was founded on that in the first place?
Sev?
Could I jump in?
When you
I
say
wasn't even, I
displacement,
wasn't
do
even
you
paying
mean
attention.
ethnic
So,
cleansing?
Peter, hold on. I wasn't really
I
paying
wanted to
attention
clarify.
to what he said. That, look, people need to get over the fact that you can hypothesize about what if this and that. At the end of the day, the state of Israel exists. The state of Israel is going to exist. The state of Israel is not going to be destroyed. So all this talk is just absolutely nonsense. Secondly, and very briefly, to Ryan's point about Israel would not survive without outside help, that is just not true. It would just be a very, very bad situation. Thirdly, the use of tactical nukes in the follow that precedes it is not the same as an actual nuke. It's very different. Thank you.
I mean, we went over this like 15 minutes ago, BZ, but I'm not going to rehash it again out of respect for the space. But again, I proved to you that without the U.S., these guys have no
You
weapons,
haven't
no
proved
money, no
anything. You have not proved
counter.
anything. You have not proved
I did.
anything, Ryan.
It's a
I did.
Oh yeah.
I did.
For example,
No,
why
hold
why
on,
is the
hold
U.S.
on,
so worried?
hold
The
on.
U.S. is
Just hold
really
on one
worried
You
about
second.
their
countered your
progress.
own nuclear point. You
No,
said that they have
Ryan,
nukes,
you
but they
haven't
can't use
proved
it because of the
anything.
fallout, and now
Ryan,
that's why the
that's
U.S.
not
needs
what
to
I
help
said,
them.
Ryan. That is
Yes,
not what
earlier
I
you
said.
did. It's
No, it is
recorded.
not.
We'll
No,
rewind it.
Ryan, you rewind it, right? So
We
an
will.
actual, but Ryan, you have to let me finish.
Go ahead.
Okay?
Iran can get nukes too. If it wasn't for the U.S., Iran could
Sure.
also get nukes. So why do I know we're talking about nukes?
Absolutely right.
Let
So
everybody have nukes. Why
so
not the
Ryan,
North Koreans as well?
Peter, just hold on. A tactical nuke, right? The fallout resulting from a tactical nuke is different than an actual nuke. Okay, they're very different. That's the
Okay, but
difference
BZ,
that I was
15
trying.
minutes
Yeah.
ago, you said the reason that the U.S. helps Israel is so that they do not use a nuke. So, AKA, where the U.S. is bribing Israel
Correct.
not to use a nuke. But then later down in your definition, you said they can't use a nuke because of the fallout. Now you're bringing tactical nuke into
I
it. So
never
you're kind
said
of
that.
changing it up.
I never
Yes,
said
you
they can't
did.
use it because no, Ryan, no, I didn't.
Yes, you
I
did.
did not.
I remember
No,
clear as
Ryan,
day.
Guys. All
Ryan,
right,
I
people
didn't
can
say
read.
that.
People can. I don't think you said it either, Zeb, but I could be wrong. I do want to go to Prasha and then for us. I know you're waiting as well. Prasha and then Tira. Pasha,
Thank you. Yeah, I want to circle back to the whole financing and United States help. So first of all of the U.S. aid, if you look on an annual basis, it's less than 1% of the Israeli GDP. So to say that really makes a huge difference, I mean, you make your own decision, opinion, but I don't think so, right? It's less than 1%. Second thing is, as far as what would Israel do, and do we have any historical precedent? Yes, we know what happened in the war in the Yom Kippur War. Yom Kippur War, Israel almost got to Cairo and almost got to Damascus, and they were stopped by the United States, who basically said, you probably shouldn't do that, and there was political pressure. All of the previous wars that Israel had, that was done without major help from the U.S. A lot of it was fought with pretty old equipment from the Second World War. So to say that we don't know what would have happened if Israel would have gotten attacked, we know because it happened in the past. And as far as the aid, again, less than 1% of Israel's GDP. Thank you.
Okay, wait. But you're saying that it's less than 1%. You're taking the 3 billion stat. The drop of the dime. We just approved over $14 billion for Israel. That's almost 3%. And you take a look at the U.S. GDP, the U.S. military budget. I mean, we're up to like 900 billion now almost. The U.S. GDP is like 23 trillion, so that stat doesn't even make sense. We're giving way more when you look at it comparative wise to the U.S. military budget compared to the U.S. GDP. We're giving way more to Israel. Israel would not exist without U.S. funding. It's as simple as that. And if anyone says, no, it would exist, okay, then you should be all right with the idea of cutting off all aid to Israel. In fact, Israel should give back all of the aid that we've ever given to their country back to the United States taxpayer.
John, on that particular point that they're debating for us, I'll go to you.
They're pretty independent, right? Israel's a world leader in UAVs and unmanned systems. This is a known thing. If we want to talk about Iron Dome, Israel developed Iron Dome, funded by us, but we didn't they developed that, right? Their scientists, their technicians, their engineers developed that mainly with help, with funding from the United States. But that's a largely Israeli developed weapon, as is the Merkava, as is all their HAPCs, APCs, and a lot of their other tech that they use. They're pretty independent in the tech sector. They're also a tech giant, right? I think the idea that if that being okay with that we should be okay with pulling all our funding from Israel, because I'm not even really sure what Jackson is kind of trying to say here. I guess he's trying to say that because if Israel is really independent, we should pull all our funding. That doesn't make any sense. I mean, are you going to say that with any of our allies and partners? That's kind of the whole reason you have allies and partners in any given region. I don't really. I'm not really. It's kind of a bunch of
What have they done for
non-answers that
us?
Jackson seems to have given. There's just one point I want to make, though, on nuclear use. I think we should stop bringing up the idea that Israel is being somehow bribed by the United States not to use nuclear weapons. Right? I'm not debating whether or not they have them, but I'm saying the idea people always jump to nuclear use at every debate. You know, we saw it in Ukraine, we saw it in with the Russia-Ukraine war, we saw it early on in this own conflict. Also, tactical nuclear weapon, the use of a tactical nuclear weapon versus any other type of normal could then penetrate that breach from that detonation of whatever army group or large enemy element. That's the only reason they're called tactical nuclear weapons. It's not because they're somehow less destructive in the fallout. You know, there's really no fallout or anything like that. Obviously, you know, depending on how many kilotons or megatons a weapon is, it's obviously there's going to be more or less fallout. But any type of, even the smallest nuclear weapon usage in the Gaza or Israel is catastrophic. And that's kind of arguably why Israel is so combative when it comes to threats against their nation, because they know that one strike in that region, well, at least Israel and Gaza, will essentially wipe them out and kind of make their biome useless.
So that's on your point, Zev. Lev, and then for us.
Yeah, thank you. So, you know, it's been interesting to say the least. I mean, I have a headache listening to Jackson. I've been dealing with Jackson for the past year on different subjects. This is a guy that supposedly knows it all when it comes to the Ukraine war, where it comes to the Middle East, where it comes to politics, and everything that goes on. You blame all these countries about your tax dollars like a little crybaby. Go complain to your own government. It's not Israel's fault that the American people support Israel. Every single government, the United States in the history of Israel has supported Israel. The Republicans, the Democrats, it doesn't matter. So if you don't like it, tough shit.
Do you think that all these presidents and all these staff, they just woke up one day and they're like, you know what, I'm going to dedicate my life's mission in the White House to giving American taxpayer dollars to Israel? Or do you think it's a little bit more sinister than that? Do you think that, as with Ukraine, there is an army of lobbyists that urge and also blackmail U.S. politicians to provide unlimited support to whatever military ventures they embark upon, that are usually also, you know, in line with the U.S. politicians' aims, because they also are lobbied to support those very aims. So it's really not about.
No, but Jackson, you're saying your problem. Your problem is not with Ukraine. Your problem is not with Israel. Your problem is with American lobbyists, American politicians, and with the way American system is set up to be able to help democracy all over the world. So you have a problem with your own government. So stop going around blaming Israel. So yeah, okay. So then stop blaming Israel. Stop blaming Ukraine. Stop blaming all of these democratic countries that are receiving help because America wants to support them.
Well,
So
it's both.
Lev, I have a question for you that Jackson could probably answer. I have a question for you that Jackson could probably answer. So, who are funding these politicians? Then we have APAC and J Street. Where are they getting their money from? These are the guys who are influencing our politicians.
No, who's funding all the Republican Marjorie and all of that?
Joe Biden's largest contributor is APAC.
Yeah, okay, but take a look at where all the Russian money and the Chinese money goes to lobbyists all over the world, and how it gets into the United States.
How much in comparison? Let's be precise.
What does it? I don't have the figures to be in comparison.
It matters because
not
there's
even a tiny fraction.
Yes, it matters because there's undue influence by Israel and recently Ukraine on U.S. politicians by way of the kickbacks they're both.
But you're an
So
American.
Jackson, I've got a question.
You don't live in Israel. How can you be upset with the Israeli? Are you upset with
Well,
the
here's
Hamas
the thing:
government? How come you're
we're
not
just trying to
upset with the
say
Hamas government? How come you're not upset with
politically
the
we're
Israeli?
committing to the position that our government should stop all aid to Israel. But the problem is that Zionist lobby comes and smears us for it. That's all we are. Our beef is with our own government, but it seems like these foreigners are trying to interfere with Americans' own business by engaging in character assassination and attacking anyone who speaks out against this extortion and robbery of our taxes.
So what you're saying is a little country.
Yeah, it's a little country with like a huge concentration of oligarchs and
Hold on, right.
billionaires.
No, the phone's hold on a second. A little country like Israel that has only about 9-10 million people is so powerful. So that's the real reason you're pissed off. That
Because
they're
there's a
so
bunch of
powerful.
banksters that live there that steal money from the world.
Okay, so even if they steal money from us, so that's your complaint that they're so powerful. So that's why you want to wipe them off.
Because a bunch of international oligarchs are headquartered there, whose money is, ill-gotten,
What are they?
more or
Russian?
less.
Aren't they Russian or international oligarchs? Majority of them that you want to play up for Putin.
Actually, a lot of those oligarchs
Uh-huh.
that people say are Russian are actually Israeli.
Oh,
Actually,
and how
so
do you
it's
know
not
that,
true.
Haz? From where do you?
That's
Where's your?
not true. What are you talking
Yeah,
about?
where's
Yeah,
your
a
knowledge coming
good
from
deal of
besides
them.
just picking up shit from the air?
So you're denying there's a connection
I'm
between
saying to
Russian
you, why don't you
oligarchs and
tell us
Israel?
where your knowledge is to make you an expert?
No, so
I
the
don't.
Russian oligarchs, a lot of them happen to be Jewish, right? And they use the law of return, but they're all
Right,
Russian.
that makes them
All of
Israeli.
them.
That makes them Israeli citizens. Then, if they're
If
using
they
a
take
right of
up
return.
citizenship, yes, but you have people like Abramovich. I don't think he's got a
And
citizenship.
did they not use the connections they had to Israel to form the business networks and ties internationally that they did?
Yes,
Well,
absolutely.
what does this have to do with
So
anything?
there you
This is
go.
just you're playing sprint and ring around the
So
rosy
so
with throwing names out.
Israel isn't just a tiny country, just like Wall Street, just like the city of London. Tel
Yeah, but
Aviv is
so
one of
what?
the
Like, why are you
headquarters
mad that
of.
one country is good at networking and lobbying when all the other neighboring countries are just shit at it?
I
Like, I
mean,
don't
Well,
BC, if
understand.
there was ever an
because
example
because
of
because
guilty
it's
by
not
association as
because
like
we're not
this is the
talking
loosest
because
argument I've ever seen about
we're
the
not talking about
collaboration and
we're not talking
trade.
about Israel. We're not talking about Israel because of the size of the country. We're talking about it because of the undue proportion of influence that it has because of the international oligarchy being headquartered there in part on sovereign countries like the United States. Yeah, there's not a lot of people that live there, but how much of the world's powerful live there, right? It's not all of them, but it's a good proportion.
Who of the world's powerhouse lives there?
I mean, didn't you just mention earlier how
Russian businessmen that live in Israel. Who are the international monetary power brokers that live in Israel? Thank you. Can you name 5 of them?
they definitely have ties to Israel, and even you
Can you
tried
name
to
5
admit
of
that
them?
when you
Name
talked
one.
about.
Name one. Name one.
Yeah, so yeah, you don't have to even dignify this. The fact of the matter is, everyone knows that Israel is a home to a lot of.
Well,
I mean,
no,
I've said Google.
no,
Okay,
you
so
can, no, sir,
it's a
sir,
Google
with all
search
due
away.
respect, no,
It's
with
a
all due
Google search
respect, sir,
away.
yeah,
It's a
sir, with
Google
all due
search
respect,
away. It's a
respect,
Google
we've
search
listened to,
away.
well, then you shouldn't need Google
So
because
Google
you're the
search it.
ultimate
Is
authority on
is
this.
Roman
Name
is
one
Roman
person.
Abramovich not an Israeli citizen? Yes or no?
I don't know if he is, or I don't know if he actually
Yes,
got
he
under the
is.
law of
Yes,
return.
It
he
is.
actually is. He actually
Okay,
is.
so one. So name
So
another one. Name 3 or 4 more. In
you
Roman,
you
Roman
yeah, go
Abramovich
ahead.
do you
live
want me
now?
do you
Where
want
does
me
he
to
live
right
now?
now dignify this by just Google searching
Yes, I
Israeli
do. Yes,
billionaires?
please do. Thank you. No. A
So
billionaire
okay,
is one. No. Hold on. A billionaire is
yeah, because
one
that's
thing.
all I'd have
You
to
need to,
do,
no,
honestly.
no. A billionaire is one thing. Okay, it doesn't matter. The problem is this: you said international power brokers. Simply because you're a billionaire doesn't mean you control the world. How many billionaires live in the U.S.? They don't control the world.
It probably means you're part of an international oligarchy. Definitely.
Oh God.
I mean,
What about
would you Do you know about the internet? Do you know
Hold
about the
on.
internet?
Wait,
Do you know about
wait.
Sir, it used to be
I'm gonna
diamonds.
settle
It
this
used to be
once and for
diamonds.
all. Israel has the highest percentage compared to the population of billionaires out of any country on the face of the earth.
There's under 20 billionaires
There you go.
in Israel. There's
There you
under
go.
20 billionaires in Israel. How
But
many
they have the
billionaires?
highest
Per
proportion.
capita has the highest as a proportion.
How many billionaires are in Israel?
30.
Okay,
I just
is
want to point out that the top 50 on the Forbes list don't even live in Israel. So,
thank you.
And what this has to do with the Russian?
They don't
Okay.
live in Israel, but are they
the
Israeli citizens? I mean, you get into the nitpicking
Not
of
all
it.
of the
It's like,
top 50 people on Forbes are Jewish, Jackson. Don't worry.
Nobody
that's not
talked
what I
about
said,
Jews.
and that's very anti-Semitic that you would
Yeah,
even
I'm
bring that up.
absolutely
But
anti-Semitic.
what does
So
it
Right,
mean that there's
100%.
what does it mean that there's 30 billionaires living in Israel? How many billionaires live in America? How many billionaires live in Russia? How many
Yeah, but what
billionaires
about
live
as
in
a
Ukraine?
what about as a
What the fuck does
proportion
that
to the
mean?
population?
But what does that
What
mean?
difference
Yeah,
does that
there's
make?
rich
What are you
people that live
saying?
in
Gentlemen, you
Israel.
guys veered Haas off, which is hilarious.
I've got a quick point on that, though. No, Actually, Haas Brian, veered the which is that conversation off, and so did HINKLE. They just kept
No,
talking
I,
about
I,
the
I,
same thing over and the whole over and thing's over been again. off since these
By the
two
way,
Piotr, go
Israel
ahead.
has 71, not 30 billionaires. It's way over 30. I don't know where they got that
Who
figure.
cares?
It's
Anyway,
fine. Piotr, go ahead,
yeah,
quick, please.
I prefer to just emphasize that Roman Abramovich has been pretty clearly affiliated with the direct piggy banks of Putin, and yet we're now talking about his relationship to the Israelis. But the Israelis and Russians have terrible relations, or pretty complicated relations. So which is it? They're either on the Israeli side or they're on the Russian side, which means they're on the side of Hamas. So, you know, your arguments here are very inconsistent, actually. If you follow where the money goes, it doesn't go as clearly as you say it does. And then to this whole
Abramovich is
point
not
about
loyal
sort of
to Russia.
Israel being... Yeah. So, I mean, I've been ill the past 2 days, but I'm frankly brain dead from having had to listen to YouTube for this long. But anyway, you know, I'd just like to say that I think that the Israeli situation is not one that you guys are very well informed about. You were put in your place with Yehuda. You're being put in your place by Lev, who's sat here for ages. And no, because I don't look at it as winning or losing.
Listen, you know what this reminds me of? This is like
obsession with trying to
listen.
put your finger up your
This
ass
is
and
2000. This is
cause a
2006. This is 2006 all over again.
Sit down.
Piotr, let him
Sit
answer.
down,
Piotr, let him answer your question.
This is
Let him
2000.
answer.
Guys.
2006 all
Guys,
over
Hassan,
again.
go to Tiran first. Hatira?
So I don't want to go in these tantrum things or little boy or PMS or blood rage or whatever has been said on this stage. Can we just stop this stuff? One point going back. The only country that has ever threatened to use nukes recently is Russia. Israel, as to my knowledge, has not even acknowledged they actually have them, much less threatened to use them. Number two, we have, unfortunately, our system of campaign finance in the United States is horrible, but that is a Supreme Court problem in certain ways. We have many lobbyists. We have industries such as oil and gas. We have tons of people lobbying for tons of things. The idea that somehow Israel is all powerful is sort of nonsensical to me, because what it means is you're saying nobody ever believes in the concept of a free democracy in that part of the world. They just are doing it for money and they're taking kickbacks. There's really no evidence of this, but
True.
okay, fine. Excuse me, please. Okay. I do want to say that, you know, I don't, when you go back to what Jackson and Haas, well, maybe just Haas, were saying, it's euphemisms. But, you know, get them off the face of the earth, et cetera, et cetera. And if we go back to that, there is really no way to do that except to bomb them out of existence, to kill them all. Now, you can try and sort of say, oh, they're going to
Not our problem.
not a problem. I see. So you
Not
are
our
advocating.
problem.
No, he said
Not
not
America's
our
problem.
problem.
Okay,
Not
sorry, I
our
didn't hear
problem.
that. But what I'm trying to say is what you're advocating, in effect, is genocide is fine as long as it comes from one side. And let's stop with the euphemisms. You're basically saying, kill all the Jewish people in Israel. That's all cool. Maybe if we can figure out a way
I'm
to
going to
get some of
intervene
them.
here. I'm not going to tolerate this
Excuse me,
slander. I
Haas.
didn't
No,
say kill all
don't.
the Jewish people.
Haas,
No,
please.
this is
Just let
Haas, let her.
unacceptable.
Israel as a country to exist, you want to change the government. but it does not mean harm the people. Is that
Exactly.
fair to say?
Exactly. It doesn't even necessarily mean they would. I mean, it's not up to me, but I don't even imagine it would have to mean they have to be deported. It just means the government, Israeli government, would no longer exist.
Yeah,
And how
and I
would
know
that
Zev. I know you want to jump. You go. It's your
Mark,
Zev.
So
I
I'm
don't know.
saying,
Zev.
how would
Guys.
that happen? Because before Haz, you said maybe some of them would something like this. You said some of them would still live. Now you're saying, well, it could be in any number of ways. How would that actually happen in real reality here? Describe to me a situation.
It would be a single democratic state where Arabs and Jews are equals,
No, I'm
and it's not a
asking you
Jewish,
how
and
that state would
not.
come to be.
I mean, look, it could. I hope it could come to be peacefully, like in South Africa. But it seems like the Zionists are not willing to go the way of the South African government. So that's an issue.
It wasn't actually that peaceful in South Africa, which there was every time there was a movement on the peaceful attempts to get it done, violence was necessary to move the ball, and this is the whole point: is that everything that's being argued here. Sorry to jump in; it's just been a while. I'm getting a migraine, so I really want to just say my piece. Look, Israel was founded on Palestine. There was no Israel before 1948. It was founded through ethnic cleansing and genocide. This is the basis of the Israeli state, and it could not have been founded without U.S. support and UK support. It's a satellite state essentially. The U.S. had imperialist ambitions in the Middle East, and they wanted to create what's essentially like an allied state in the Middle East. It's been one of the most destabilizing events to happen inside the whole Middle East till today. And it's been a very destabilizing force in the Middle East, causing a lot of resentment. This is the thing. When people start talking about democracy, what type of democracy? Like, there's one government between the river to the sea, and that's the Israeli government. And there's 5.5 million of us, me included, which don't have any form of rights or recourse that live under it. You can make any straw man arguments about the PA, Hamas, all this stuff. It's all bullshit. Like if the Israeli government can come and arrest our president, then that doesn't mean we have any type of sovereignty. And even the leaders of Hamas and the founders of Hamas or the Palestinian president can't even leave the country without an Israeli permit. And that's actually how Ismail Haniyeh left, and Ahmed Yassin, the founder of Hamas, said he had to leave with an Israeli permit. Israel is a destabilizing itself to prop it up just so it can retain its satellite state, which serves its interests in the ways that it wants to serve its interests in the region. And now it's becoming a detriment because it's realizing that this is in the final stages of essentially what's happening, this far right collapse that's happening to Israeli society, where they're getting more and more, just racist and just brutal and vengeful against what's essentially a defenseless Palestinian people. You talk about genocide and democracy; these are the foundations of the state of Israel. And you say about democracy, what you support this fake democracy in Israel, and at the same time you prop up dictators around them as long as they recognize the state of Israel and protect its interests. So you prop them up. So it's not about democracy; it's about what's your attitude towards Israel, and that's the type of thing. So even when other people are talking about these are the American values, so America should promote these values, no, they don't promote American values. That's the problem. The mask is off. It's complete hypocrisy. This is
FL?
Sorry?
Go ahead, finish off.
Yeah, so it's complete hypocrisy because if a democratically elected government like Mosab in Iran, happened, was the first democratic elected government, they were toppled by the MI6 immediately. Why? Because they didn't serve the British interest. And the same thing with the America in the region. Anytime the US in the region. Now it's becoming very detrimental because you're seeing that there's no way the Israeli government in its current form could actually, move towards a two-state solution and amicable resolution. And you keep dancing around the subject as if this isn't the root cause of it. They could have called it quits. A two-state solution is a Palestinian concession. It's us conceding that, okay, we can start to live in our own state as long as we have it. And even that's not good enough. Even now, it's even further than that. They can't even bring up and talk about the 67 borders, which is internationally recognized parameters to that. So honestly, I'm just, I've been hearing a lot about this kind of rhetoric about democracy and, supporting this shared values. What type of shared values are you guys really talking about? I wish for anyone who tries to talk about the Middle East and the animosity it creates in the Middle East and in the world when they see the double standards by the US, how they have one standard for some countries and then another standard when it comes to Israel. It makes you lose complete legitimacy to people like me and people in the Middle East, like hundreds of millions, even billions of people are watching the mask fall off. Where if it's my ally, he can do no harm. But if it's not my ally, then it doesn't matter if he's a good person, good to his people, or has legitimacy, or is a good force. We have to topple him, and so that's
But
the
Ferris, isn't,
reality.
isn't that just the way world politics works, though, in reality?
Essentially, to some extent, BZ, yeah, it is how world. But this is the thing: when when you're making an argument for a certain state, or you're making an argument justifying your actions, you can just be blunt about it and say, "Listen, they're our ally, and this is why we're defending them." Don't make this about like shared values and humanitarian law and you know what I mean?
So,
Like, just be honest. This
but,
is my ally, and that's why we're protecting him. And
fair
this
enough.
is more honest in terms of like the rhetoric of even people like Iran, which say like we support
In the West Bank want to live under an Israeli democracy, pro LGBTQ rights, pro this, pro that, or
no,
would they
no.
want a curtailed version of it?
We would love to live under one man, one vote. The reason there isn't support for it is because people think it's like not even possible, because we know Israel
But that
would
wasn't the
rather
question.
kill.
No. What I meant is, like, because you know Israel very well, like Tel
Yes. So
Aviv, right?
when you're talking
So
about
will
LGBT,
Israel
so
give
this is
up
my
being a
point.
Jewish
This
state?
So
this is my
Hazadin,
point.
I'm going to come to you in 1 second. Fierce,
Yeah.
please go ahead.
So my point is, if you're talking about a state that's representative of all the people between the river and the sea, all the Muslims, Jews, Palestinian, they were Palestinian Jews before there was Israel. That's what they were. It had have to be representative of the values of those people. So when you say about LGBTQ, why are we talking about LGBTQ when I don't have basic human rights? Like, I can't even get
But
access to
no.
water.
My question is a little
So
bit more caveated, right? Because what you are in essence saying that by the one man, one vote, and the style of governing would have to be reflective of the total population. What you are saying, though, is, and I think we can agree on this. I don't think the vast majority of the individuals in Gaza and the West Bank are very pro LGBTQ. That's my assumption.
yeah,
And so,
true.
furthermore,
It would
okay,
definitely it would if it would be
right.
if it
So
would
what
become a
you're saying,
representative
though,
if it would become a
right,
representative democracy,
right.
then definitely there will be a kind of dialing back on the LGBTQ rights. I don't
So,
think it would
but what you're
completely be
saying is that
abolished, but I don't
democracy.
think gay
So,
marriage would be accepted or any type of
right. So what you're
public.
saying, though, is right. So, but the population in Israel right now, which supports these rights, you'd have to contract some of the
No,
democratic.
but Ben, you're saying supports his rights. The current government is, and the Israeli public is hanging by a thread on the LGBTQ kind of rights.
What are you
Like, they're,
talking about?
yeah. Look at the coalition. Look at the Haredi people.
Okay, the Haredi, but no, no,
Ben
no, no,
Gvirs. Look
no,
at the
no, no, no,
Squatters.
no, no, no.
Look at the
The
Arab
coalition.
parties.
No, no, no. The
If we want to break it
Fierce,
down vote
fierce,
by vote,
but that's no, fierce. Listen, the coalition was formed so that Netanyahu could get a governing majority. The
okay,
coalition is
forget the
not.
coalition. Look at the other side. Look at the opposition. How many people from how there's at least 10 seats on the opposition that don't support these. So you're talking
And
about at least 10.
how many seats are there in the whole coalition of 100? You're saying is
Ben,
that if
listen to
we
what I'm
hold on,
saying.
if we became one state, you're saying that the democratic freedoms and protections that the majority
Why
have
is
would
that?
have to be
No.
contracted.
Why is that democratic? No, there is no democratic freedoms and protect. There's a democratic freedoms and protections for some right now. So there isn't a democratic freedom.
I'm
If
talking
you're
about
gonna,
the I'm
you
talking
shouldn't
about
die
the
on the
people within the
LGBT.
borders of
No,
Israel.
you shouldn't die on the
Okay, I'll
LGBTQ
just
hill.
answer the question. If whoever asked the question thinks that maybe we should maintain this occupation because of LGBTQ laws, then you better be ready to send yourself and your whole family to every country on the face of the earth that doesn't have LGBTQ friendly laws. So you can go do an occupation, you can coup the government, and you can instill the LGBTQ laws. As an
Well,
American,
I
I
also
don't care
don't
if they
understand.
have it.
I also don't understand this idea that democracy is about gay rights when it's not. If a people in a country
So I use
decide
that
that
as
they
an
want,
example. I use that as an example.
right? Okay,
But
so
if
so
they
No,
if they
basically,
wait,
form
one,
a if they form a
so
new
basically,
state,
I don't see,
if they form a new state and they collectively the people say we don't want those laws that were on the books prior, then it would be anti-democratic to reject their will. So why don't you just let the people of the country
I
decide?
also take
But
issue
the
with this
people of the
idea
country
that
have decided. The people of the
I
country
take
have
issue with
decided.
the idea. I take issue with the idea that Palestinians should have to submit to the quote unquote democracy, which avows itself as a democracy only for Jewish people formally. It's a Jewish state of Israel, right?
It
So
is
it would
correct.
have to be a state for all the people that live under it, not just one
But that's
people.
not going
And
to happen.
until
I mean, we have to be honest. That's just not going to happen.
then let's be clear about something. Then Israel, quote unquote, will never be a democracy. Simple as that.
So you
Guys,
can
if I
term it
could,
whatever you want, but at the end, hold on. But at the end of the day, the notion that been used to for 75 years is absurd. I wanted to ask Jackson
Wait,
a
so
quick question here.
the democratic freedoms, which include what? Gay rights?
It comes at my
Yeah.
expense. Zev.
Yeah, well,
So
that's like
that's not a
saying
democratic
that's
freedom.
like that's
Fierce, I
like
acknowledge
saying
it. Hold on,
that's like
Hazadin.
say
Fierce, hold on one
that's
second.
like saying
Fierce, I can,
that's like saying that
okay, oh,
that's like
Jackson,
saying that
sorry, go
South
ahead.
Africa let me just that's like saying that South Africa should have maintained the apartheid state because well, you know, a lot of people were used to how the country operated for years and years and years, maybe their whole life. So it has to stay. No, that things change. History is not linear.
Yeah, so you talk about this funding and the lobbying, right? So what are the top groups that spend money in the United States, right? So the top
For a
lobbying groups.
foreign
Israeli
government?
lobby, the NRA,
Yeah,
the military-industrial complex,
yeah.
the pharma companies, the banks. These are all lobbies that fund the most
Right,
heavily.
and
The oil
foreign,
and gas.
and what about the top foreign governments? Because Jackson, I think it was you.
The
number
top,
one.
yeah,
Israel number.
I'll
No
answer the
one meddles in
question.
Israel.
I'll answer the question. It's very simple. Israel has a very long-standing relationship with the United States, so they don't need to put as much effort into capturing our politicians anymore as they used to because everyone's already on the same page. If they go against the Israeli official doctrine, then they will be smeared as an anti-Semite and they'll be removed from Congress one way or another. So they don't need to put up
Yeah,
their
but
whole
Israel is not the
effort.
top, right? Israel is not the top from foreign countries, right? We got open secrets here. The top one is China,
Yeah, but it's
Japan.
the most. It's not about today.
It has the most
It's about
control. It has the most
yeah, but
Okay,
control.
that that doesn't.
what I don't know, Jackson, with all due respect, if you can explain this to me, right? So you say it has the most control. So we have China, Japan, South Korea, Qatar, Marshall Islands, UAE, Russia, Saudi Arabia above Israel. Don't you think that if they had
Not
the
even
ability,
Dev. Not.
well,
How could you say that with
This
Israel?
is a perfect
Tell me
it's a
Fierce,
one
great
Fierce, I'm
example
looking at
because
Tell me.
Fierce,
it
No, hold on,
let's ask a simple let's
I'm
ask a
looking at
simple
it right here. I'm
Hold on one
looking at
sec.
it right
let's
here.
ask
Hold on
this
one
is
sec. Hold
simple.
on one
Okay,
sec.
it's simple.
Zeb,
It's simple.
tell me
All
one
you have
U.S.
to
president and one congressman that has ever attended a lobby event for any other foreign country
No,
other
Fierce,
than
Fierce, now you're
or
changing the.
receive.
I want to finish my
if you're in
point to.
Congress.
Yeah, I want to finish my point to Fierce. Hold on. Fierce, I didn't talk about the power. I'm talking about actual cash, right? So you have China, Japan, South
So
Korea,
we're
Qatar,
talking about
Marshall.
power.
Hazadin, please. I acknowledge the APAC is extremely powerful, right? But Fierce and Hazadin and Jackson, don't you think that if China, Japan, South Korea, Qatar, UAE, Russia, Saudi Arabia, if they had the ability to overtake APAC in the Israel lobby as the most prominent and powerful, that they would? I don't understand what's so foreign about
Right,
this
but I think
concept.
there's something weird going on when the Israel lobby is the most powerful objectively, because even though you're claiming that China spends the most, well, ask yourself a question. If you're in Congress or you're in the Senate or a U.S. politician who speaks badly about China, will the consequences be even close to when you speak badly about Israel? Not even close. So
But my
Israel,
question is,
even though it doesn't spend as much, it seemingly has this grip of power that
would you
vastly
concede though
exceeds
that
any
China
other
and
country.
Russia, yeah, but would you concede though, and Jackson, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Would you concede that China, Russia, Saudi Arabia, who financially contribute more to the lobbying, if they could, would they not like to be the most powerful, right? It's not just a struggle who can influence the most. So I understand that you don't like the state of Israel. Fine, great. But at the end of the day, in terms of their lobbying capabilities, so what? Israel's on top. Like, so what? If China could be, they would be.
Well,
how do
Right?
they maintain?
I'll answer your question. So first of all, just because you're equating the donations by Russians to the Russian state. Just because money is coming from Russia doesn't mean that Congress is being shoveled $169 billion from Vladimir Putin and his cohorts. It means that Russian lobbyists are spending that money. Now, I would guess that the majority of that sum of cash, which is actually more than Israel spent from 2016 to 2023, is coming from anti-Russian, oligarchs that want Putin out and want the hardliners out. So, my question to you is, of course, yeah, like sure, if Russia, China, whoever could be more influential in terms of lobbying the U.S. government, there, I guess, would be a vested. Yeah. Wait, let me just finish. I didn't interrupt you. There would be a vested there would be a vested interest in them trying to forward.
That was
I hope not.
Yeah.
Well, okay,
No,
so
you proved my point.
I didn't interrupt you. I didn't interrupt you.
You proved my point, and I wanted to thank you.
I didn't interrupt you. If that's your argument, that dollar amount has anything to do with power, then Russia would have a more influential role in U.S. politics than Israel, which is obviously not the case.
We're also overlooking a big thing right now.
I just want to respond to Jackson 1 second. I wanted to thank him, right? So you've conceded the point that I made. I do appreciate that. It takes a lot of character, right? Because you said that if Russia could overtake Israel, and forge better relationships and so forth, they would. So it would come back again. So what's the problem that Israel has been more successful than what in achieving what Russia and China wants to achieve? Thank you.
I'll answer. Yeah, I didn't concede anything. I'll answer. So
well, you did, I said
I did not concede anything. So U.S., would they try to be more influential? And I said, I guess they would try to be more influential in establishing good relations with the United States. Now, that's fine. I'm all for having good relations with any country, but Israel's a little bit different. They're the ugly duckling. They're not pushing for good relations. They're not pushing for bilateral trade agreements. They're pushing for the United States taxpayer to empty their coffers so they can commit a genocide on the people of Palestine. Right. It's a little bit different.
I think we're also overlooking a big factor here. We have to square ourselves on understanding the following paradox. How is it that AIPAC, even though it doesn't spend as much as these other countries supposedly, still has more institutional power? Where does that power come from? The implication is that they're just more persuasive or charismatic. Well, here's the truth.
No,
it's because most of the lobbying for the state of Israel is indirect. It's not direct. It's in the form of institutions and corporations which are loyal to Israel, which penalize people, politicians, and employees that they're working with for, even students at colleges, penalize them for speaking out against Israel. So the Zionist power is usually not even direct in the form of AIPAC. It usually manifests itself in the form of canceling these politicians. Who is that politician, his name in Michigan, who was just recently contacted because he was being offered $20 million.
Oh, no, that guy.
20 million to primary Rashida Tlaib and challenge her. And this was not done. I don't believe this was even done by AIPAC, right?
So
you have all of these private, you have the private sector. You have a huge portion of the private sector, which is not even really on the books in public, always supporting Israel, doing all these things to intervene on Israel's behalf. And it's not even transparent.
What you're saying is you're mad that Israel has been able to achieve that which Saudi Arabia, Russia, and UAE has not been successful in achieving. Thank you.
Look, I'm not mad about it, but I just want us to be honest.
Doing is in some degrees I would agree with you, right? In some ways, What you are neglecting to mention, though, is the very powerful right-wing evangelical Christian base of the Republican Party, right? They're more pro-Zionist, pro-Israel than me, and I was born in Israel, right? They love Israel
Where
more
does
than
that come
anything.
from? They're the ones who invented the idea of Zionism and the
Yeah,
idea
so it comes from the fact that they,
for the
yeah,
Jews.
Hasadin, no, so it comes from the fact that their fundamental Christian values line up to biblical prophecy, right? They say,
No, that's not
well, yeah,
true.
well, it is true.
Who funded the Judeo-Christian conspiracy theory?
No, it's true
I
that the
don't
Christian
even know what that
evangelicals
is.
are and the Christian Zionism is older than Jewish Zionism, and it was
Absolutely.
actually pushed by the evangelicals in the UK and the US for hundreds of years before it was Jewish Zionism. But
Yeah,
Zev,
so
that doesn't make it better though in any way. Like
did
that.
I say it made it better? No, I'm pointing
No.
out a fact, though, right? And Jackson, if you have a problem with that, you have to take it up with the right-wing Christians, not with me. Florida capitalist, go ahead, brief. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I'm a right-wing Christian and I don't support Israel, but I mean,
Well, Israel supports you, don't worry.
No. So you're making a ludicrous argument that somehow dollar amount correlates to anything, and that every
I
government
never said that.
every government lobbying does the same thing.
I never made that
Israel,
contention, though. I never made that contention. Please don't put words in my mouth.
you said that China and Russia, if they could, would lobby
Correct.
and use their influence to control
Of the amount of influence that they could exert within the U.S. to, align with their narratives and their interests, they would, and you conceded that
BZ, they don't
point.
need to.
So I don't
Yeah,
know.
but
I don't know who that's for.
you just literally restated exactly. You said no, and then restated what I said.
No,
So
because you said I correlated it with dollar amounts.
BZ, they don't need to
I
because
pointed out the dollar.
In dollar amounts, it's probably larger than any other country when you factor in all the unofficial Zionist institutions.
Yeah, and the fact of the matter is, it's not just carrot. It's carrot and stick approach. So you look at Russia, for example. I mean, I don't even know any U.S. politicians that were probably offered Russian cash. Maybe there's some, but there's probably not a lot. So they're offered Russian cash, but wait, let me just finish. So there's no Russian.
Most of the Republican Party, Jackson.
Let me just finish. Holy shit. So there's no U.S. politicians that are fearful of a stick approach from the Russian government that will say, we're going to cancel you now. Our whole lobbying entity is going to cancel you now because you're Russophobic. That's not a fear that they have. They don't have a stick approach with U.S. politicians. They only have the carrot approach. The Israelis, however, both have carrot and stick approach. They can offer cash. They can invite people to nice galas. They can bring them on, basically birthright visits, essentially, to Israel. But they can also use the stick approach and say, if you don't agree with us, then we're going to cancel you and force you out of Congress.
BZ, essentially what he's saying in a nutshell is that a dollar from Israel has way more power and influence than a dollar from anywhere else.
And I acknowledge that. But again, what he is... No, it's not done, Ryan, because what he is saying, Ryan, because he proved my point, right?
No,
what
I just
said
proved
is
his
that
point, because what BZ...
Ryan, you need
Just one back and forth.
You gotta let me respond, okay, Ryan? My point is this. What they're saying is that they're mad that Israel has been more successful at using a smaller amount of money to exert more influence to get what they want.
No, that's not what he's saying. He's not saying that he's mad.
Okay, you need to let me finish, Ryan. Okay, what
the question is how.
Hasadin,
yeah, I think. No, but guys, I'm going to jump in. Zev, we get your point. So what you're saying is, Zev, you're saying is that they're mad about it. They're saying they're not mad. They're just asking the question how. They said they're not frustrated.
Mario, you need to let me finish too. Okay, so at the end of the day, China, Japan, South Korea, Qatar, Marshall Islands, UAE, Russia, they give more money than Israel does. Israel gives less. Israel is more successful at their lobbying goals, right? And I don't know how. You'll have to go ask the people at AIPAC.
Hold on, guys.
Mario,
so, guys, just 2 seconds. Zev, you let me finish. I understand, Zev. You made the point 4 times already. We get the point. You repeated again the same point you made the last 4 times. And I agree with it. I'm just pointing out, and Has jumped in and pointed it out while you're repeating the same point, is that the how is the thing that they're debating. not the if, or are they angry or frustrated. They're not angry. They're not frustrated. I don't think they give a shit. Well, they might be angry, but the thing that they're
Mario,
debating.
they have powerful lobbyists. They have good lobbyists. What do you
Mario,
mean
cut out.
how? I
Exactly.
mean,
But where
That's
does the
my
power come
point.
from? Where does the power come from, though? How do they get that power? Where does it come from?
that's from the United States. The lobbyists are United
I
States
think I
lobbyists.
think
They're
you would
either
have to end up
ex-senators, they're
conceding.
either
I think my point,
ex-congressmen, they're
the
lawyers.
positive descriptive point I'd like to make, and no, I'm not frustrated or angry. I just want us to get to the bottom of this so we have the truth, right? The truth is that the Zionist lobby is not just AIPAC. The Zionist lobby is firmly entrenched in a host of institutions, corporations, and sectors of American society which don't officially call themselves AIPAC, but which still act on behalf of Israel's interests by all means. And once we can acknowledge that there's a Zionist power, right, it's not official, but it's unofficial, and it has its own interests, once we can just, I'm not angry, just let's acknowledge it, let's be transparent about it. That way Americans can know what they're voting for. That's way Americans can know where their taxes are going and why they're
And
going where they
I'll also
not because it was a rational choice by the politicians that they've given money to on behalf of America's interests, but because there's institutional and financial power that's backing it up. Simple
and
as
I'll
that.
just say
Hans,
I'll
hold on a
just say
second. Jackson,
also
hold on a second.
going
Jackson,
back
hold on
to
a
what
second,
we were
Jackson.
saying earlier,
Jackson, hold on a second.
it
I'm trying to.
it's not about these politicians waking up one day and being whatever country on the face of the earth said that they wanted to do the same and they were as successful as Israel in influencing US politicians. That would also be irrational and silly for those US politicians to go along with whatever state it is that's influencing them. The primary focus for US politicians should be what's in the US public's interest. So I think we can all agree, regardless of dollar amounts, that the most influential foreign lobby is Israel by far, and throwing up some number on the screen doesn't change that.
Absolutely.
Jackson, you just admitted, listen, and it's not about money. One of the main reasons you guys keep walking around and playing ring around the rosy is the reason why most of Israel's policies are accepted in the United States and why they have such support is because most of them, the United States aligns with it besides the policy. So it's easier. It's a lot harder for a lobbyist to get a job from a Hamas, get paid money and go try lobby in the United States to get the Hamas support than when you get a democratic country that aligns with all of the same things the United States does when you go out there and
But
you
as
start
Karas
spending some
pointed out,
money.
it's not democratic.
And if that was
That's
true,
that's the American system.
if
That's
that
the
was true,
American
if it
system, though,
just so
Jackson.
happens that Israel's democratic and the only reason why they have influence is because their values align with our values.
Yeah, that's a good
Then
point.
wait. Okay, so if that's really true that they align with our values, that's why they're so influential. Then okay, 63, 68, I forget the number, but about 63% of Americans support a ceasefire in Gaza right now. So why is it that 63% of our members of Congress are not calling for a ceasefire?
Yeah, I can
Because
answer that.
63%. Okay, you go ahead, BZ.
I'll go after you, Len. Go ahead.
Yeah, because 63% of the United States population hasn't seen everything that the United States Congress has seen and exactly what's going on, don't have the same information. Okay, and they're going off of headlines. The other reason is because the only other reason is nobody wants to see death and destruction. And everybody has support and wants the ceasefire to continue and end.
Yeah.
But the congressmen understand what's going on behind the scenes and understand that Hamas needs to get eradicated because of what the information they're seeing and they're dealing with the Israeli.
Congress is seriously misinformed, and they're misinformed by donors and lobbyists that have a stranglehold on our country.
Well, Jackson, can I add one thing? I'd actually,
Why does Hamas have to be eradicated, Lev? I have a question for you.
I'd like to ask. Yeah, I just want to ask Jackson a quick question first, though. So, I agree with you in part, though, right? But I think also what we're missing here is that, some in Congress and certainly within the Senate, like Lindsey Graham and so forth, they have in their minds probably a strategic interest in supporting Israel and seeing Israel to be successful, right? So I don't think it's simply a matter of public opinion and this and that, right?
So why is it their interest?
You'll have to go talk to Lindsey Graham.
But I think you're saying it's somehow in their interest, but how could we fathom it could
I
be in
think
their
in their
interest?
mind, I think in their mind, and I think rightfully so, it's United States' interest, right? I mean, you can say whatever you want about Israel, but Israel is a democracy, right? The values and the visions line closer with the United States' values and visions than Iran,
I think
Syria.
democracy is a very subjective kind of word that's not very substantive. I mean,
Well,
how is it in the
democracy, yeah,
values?
well,
How is it in the interests of the U.S. to support Israel very concretely, without all the ideological floundering?
yeah,
How
certainly,
concrete?
certainly,
Strategical
sure,
leverage in the
absolutely,
region. That's it.
yeah, Piotr, yeah,
Benjamin, do you mind
exactly.
if I jump in on this quickly?
Wouldn't
Go
it be
ahead,
more
Piotr.
beneficial to support the Arabs who own all the oil? You know.
No, not
Well,
at all.
quite possibly. The Biden administration have made rather erroneous statements like calling Saudi Arabia a pariah state and then having to come back with their tail between their legs because they realize that they can't get away with doing that. I also wanted to chime in because I can't believe I'm about to say this. I very tacitly kind of agree with you guys, to be honest. I think that the Israeli lobby in the United States is too powerful. Far left, but I mean the AOCs, the Bernies, and whether or not you like those guys, but they are actively and actually quite interestingly willing to challenge Israel and point out some of the inconsistencies. At least that's what they say. But anyone who's a far right Republican, the MAGA group, to moderate Democrat, they're all part of the same group, which is that Israel must be supported outrightly no matter what. And as soon as you even remotely suggest the idea of removing or at least decreasing the amount of money given to the Israelis, and $4 billion per year, that causes a huge ruckus amongst Congress. I mean, I was even on the Hill lobbying a few times in the past as part of my work, and people would be freaking out that we would even suggest the idea of having it reviewed or redirecting funds to other areas that might be a little bit more constructive. So I have to be honest, I don't disagree 100% with the power of the lobby, whether you like it or not. But to the question, why? Because the strategical significance of Israel as sort of, it's a bit like Australia in Asia. It's really largely to do also with ethnicity and race as well. And just because Israel is so well positioned vis-a-vis Iran and the idea of nukes and potential Armageddon like that, that the Americans look at Israel as a fundamental core, component in that region.
What's
Yeah,
the
but Piotr,
strategic
would you
significance?
Everything
agree?
changes.
Sorry, Piotr,
What's the strategic
would you
value?
agree that it's also to do with dual citizens who happen to be
Yeah,
both
yeah, that
Israeli and
too, 100%.
American, who actually put Israel before America in very key positions? You also have other funds that are actually lobbying. There's a guy named Jesse Cohen that sits on multiple boards. All right. If anyone actually watches these people, they are also AIPAC supporters. Second of all, AIPAC is the only foreign lobby group that has the right to actually advertise in America actively against opponents and or propagate who they're funding. No other country has the right to do that. That would be considered meddling and interfering in elections. China can't do it. Qatar can't do it. Saudi can't do it. AIPAC can do it. And these are the things that you're saying.
So can
Why
do
are there
what?
funds?
What
Why
can
are there
APAC do
funds?
and other
Sorry,
countries
stop
can?
cutting me out. Just a second. Just a
No,
second.
no,
Why?
I didn't.
Sorry,
Could
just
you
a second.
restate
Just a
that?
second. I can't hear you.
But,
I actually can't hear you. All right.
well, I can mute you
Why
and
are
then you
they?
can hear
I
me. No,
can't
I
hear
didn't.
you,
Can you
dude. I
repeat
just
what
can't
you
hear
said that
you.
Israel?
Oh,
Can
for
you
fuck's sake.
please repeat what Israel can do and other
I'll
countries
answer.
can't?
He's
Thank you.
saying that if you are an unregistered foreign agent of Russia doing lobbying work in the U.S., you will be incriminated for that. But
100%.
if
Correct.
you're
He's right. Yes.
unregistered and you're Israeli, then you face no repercussions.
Zero repercussions. In fact, the amount of information so this so-called spider web, right? If you really want to start to look at it correctly, the amount of entrenchment that has taken place between Israel and America is actually very difficult to dismantle it. It's so entrenched that the way they share, that's why you're seeing people like work in the military and actively go to Israel and work in their military, fight for them as if they become their own, and then know how to take their clothes off and come back to to the United States and go back to their daily jobs or daily life. That's never to be seen by any other country. If you look at China, Chinese people in America who become American actually have to denounce the CCP, like literally. Like you're not
So,
even allowed to show any form of connection to the CCP, because then it's considered as if, hey, are you a spy? Are you trying to harm us? And you have to
yeah, but
actually disclose everything.
you're dealing with extreme examples, right? So if a Canadian
No, there's
citizen
no
moves,
extreme. Israel is far
you have to
worse
let me
than at
finish.
least
So
China.
listen, so
America's benefiting.
if a
Hold on,
Canadian
BZ,
citizen,
BZ,
you
BZ.
need to let me finish. No,
Just a
you need to let
second,
me
just a
finish.
second. You're
No, you need to let
glancing
me.
over it.
No. You need two-way back and forth conversation. Okay, if a Canadian citizen moves to the United States, they don't have to denounce the Canadian government. If a Czech citizen moves to the United States, they don't have to denounce the Czech government. Poland, Germany, right? So you're using the most fringe examples. What? China, Iran, Syria, Russia? I mean, it's absurd. But go
America
ahead, sir.
benefits from China far more than it benefits from Israel or Canada, dude. Do you actually know? Do you actually know the numbers? It's a far better investment than Israel. Israel's the
But
shittiest
what's your point?
investment in the world, actually, for America, if you really think
But
about
what's
it.
your
The only
point?
thing that's different there, again, we go back, is dual citizens hijacking the country, having the ear of the president, having the ear of the Pentagon, having the ear of the CIA. Like, I could keep going and going. You guys have, America is no longer for America. If you
You
actually
guys?
start to
So I'm
study the
American. I'm
individuals.
not Israeli. But okay, thanks. You
Well,
guys.
again, I wasn't complimenting at all. I think it actually is destroying America. That's why America has a higher debt to GDP in comparison to Israel itself. They found a mechanism to actually exploit and extort this country. That's the experiment, and it's proving to be successful in their benefit. Again, what benefit does Israel give America? Just highlight that. Give me one thing.
BZ, answer
Yes,
that.
absolutely. Yeah,
It
I will
sounds like a lot of
absolutely.
people are frustrated and
FL, one
mad because
second,
the
guys,
Israelis reached
gentlemen,
out.
please let BZ answer.
All right.
Gentlemen, please.
What it gives America is, first of all, an incredible intelligence gathering capability in a very, very ugly neighborhood in the world, right? That's
Dude,
number
you
one.
guys made it ugly. And everyone has said
Why
that.
do you
The
keep calling it
Saudis
you
have
guys?
said
I
that.
resent
The
that
Why do you
comment,
Americans
by
keep
the
have
way.
calling
said
me
that.
you guys?
Every
Okay, don't call me you guys. I'm American. Okay, don't call me you guys.
Saddam,
BZ, he's
you
talking
yeah,
about the
but you
team
are
that
you
you're
are one
on.
of those co-opted individuals, in my humble opinion. Saddam has said that. Everyone has said that. If it wasn't for Israel, America would be one of the safest places in the region. The intelligence gathering that they do with Qataris, with Saudis, is significant,
Well,
by
then
the
you have to
way.
run for Congress and change the laws, right? And
But
change
they're
change
having
the
to trust.
trajectory.
They're
BZ, what
only
he's saying
having
is
to
it's not
trust.
possible to do it because the network is so deep and vast that even if, let's say Mo runs all the way up to the presidential office, that everyone that surrounds him is either dual citizen. Take a look at what Biden's administration is, or they're funded by AIPAC or G Street, so the commitments are
Hold
somewhere
on.
else.
You name one person in Biden's administration that has dual citizenship.
Blinken.
He does not have dual citizenship. That's
Okay, I'll double
absurd.
check and send it to you. Don't get angry, man.
Please do. Thank you. No, because that's a very serious accusation. There are no members of Biden's administrations or any administration
That's a
that has dual
bold statement. I'm
citizenship.
going to Google it right now and send it to
And
you.
go
You
ahead. Go ahead.
cannot have, hang on, let me step in here. You cannot
Thank you,
have
Charles.
security clearance and be a dual citizen. Once you want American security clearance, you have to renounce your other citizenship.
Welcome back, Charles. I wanted to respond to your point about the ethnically cleansed villages in the West Bank that you wanted the list of. So I made sure I prepared a list just for you.
And who is this?
This is Firas from the West Bank.
Okay, well, you're not Jackson Hinkle. You weren't the one spewing out whatever he
Oh,
was
so the
saying. So
truth
if he
doesn't.
wants to,
Whoa,
no,
Well,
whoa,
no.
Charles, if he
If
has an
you go
answer to
back,
your
if
question, let him
you
respond to you. That's
whoa.
okay.
hang on. I have said in the past there are probably problems in the West Bank and they need to be dealt with separately.
Problems.
My
There's been
point, my
27
point
ethnically
is,
cleansed villages this year. This
my
year, since
point
January,
is,
Charles.
Jackson just can't get up there and yell something without any facts and
But
let
it
him
is a fact.
deflect.
He just doesn't have the
He
list, and
didn't
I have
have
the
the
list.
facts. He just yelled a talking point that he
No,
wasn't
Okay,
prepared
okay.
to
I'll settle
defend.
this once.
Between a casing and a
Charles, you asked a
bullet.
question. Charles, you asked him a question. Let him
I didn't
answer you,
ask a
please.
question. I didn't ask the
You
question.
just came up here and said you had a
Oh, you
question for
did. You
Jackson.
asked a
Jackson
question.
handed it over. Gentlemen, please, Charles, you asked a question to
No, I
Jackson.
did not
Jackson
say
handed
that.
it over
Don't
to his
lie your
teammate.
fucking ass off. I did
Man,
Whoa,
not ask
respectful,
Jackson
please.
a question. No, you shut
You
up.
did.
I did
And
not ask
I didn't tell you
Jackson a
to shut
question.
up. I didn't tell you to shut
Okay,
up. I
gentlemen.
respectfully asked you to let him answer.
Okay,
My
let's just.
question was this. Jackson, what's the difference between a casing and a bullet? Because apparently with your pictures, you
okay,
don't know
let's
that. So
answer
can
the
you
first question.
please,
The first question was
can
about
you
the West
please
Bank.
tell me,
Wait.
can you please tell me
We're
what the
gonna.
difference between a casing and a
Okay,
bullet
I
is?
will. So we're gonna answer the first question first. We're
So
gonna
you're
sub
gonna
Tyler.
deflect. You're gonna
No,
deflect because you
So
lost. That's fine.
no.
Go
We're
ahead,
answering.
deflect.
Answer the
Go
first
ahead,
We're
Jackson.
question, and
answering.
then
We're
Jackson will
answering.
answer your
Wait.
question.
We're answering your question, and you're deflecting with another question. We're subbing
Yeah.
out Tyler Hero. We're throwing in Jimmy Butler for Ross. Go.
All right. We got Khan Al Ahmar. Okay. We got Ain Al Zar'a village. We have multiple smaller villages in Masafir Yatta, in Al Mughayr, near Mitzpedani. We have Jafaltak in the Jordan Valley, the town of Yasin. What else? Let's see. Wadi
Okay,
Siq,
provide
Qaryat
receipts on
Hizma,
how that's ethnic cleansing of the
Al-Farsiya,
Palestinians.
Ain al-Zar'i. No,
Where are
listen.
the receipts
Charles,
of
Charles,
ethnic
please allow him to
cleansing?
Oh,
finish.
please. If you
Charles,
want the
please
Well,
allow
he's
him
list,
just
to
saying
finish.
names.
I
He's
have the
saying
Wait,
list.
Charles,
names
Charles.
with
Charles.
no evidence.
Charles, please allow him to
Charles, I
finish.
have a question for you.
Charles, you gotta ease up a bit, Charles.
You've
You
been
asked
extremely
the first
disrespectful and
question.
even
Hold on, Ryan. All right, man.
You
I don't care about the disrespect. So you asked him for the list of cities of towns. He's giving you the list. So you jumped in saying, "Hey, you're just giving us a list."
Mario, your
Oh,
mic,
okay.
Yeah, so Charles, you asked for the list and you want the receipts. I'm happy. I'm very happy to provide you receipts from
Throw it in the
Beth,
nest.
from
Throw it in the
Bethlehem.
nest.
Okay, sure.
Throw it in
I
the
actually
nest.
did a whole tweet on it, and I'll put it in the
Charles,
nest right now.
how
And
does it feel, Charles? I have a question for you now. How does it feel that your taxpayer dollars are funding the ethnic cleansing of all these towns you can't even point to on a map?
How does it feel that you're paid by the Russians? I don't get the point of your question.
If I was paid by the Russians, that'd be extremely base, but I'm not.
I'm pretty sure you are.
I wish I
Where's
was.
the evidence? I want you to back that up with some evidence.
Okay, so Jackson, let's go back to my real question.
He can't
My
afford
actual question for you, Jackson.
He made a defamatory claim, which is actually accusing him of something illegal, which is taking money from a foreign government.
Jackson, go
So,
back to my
Charles,
question.
can you back up the
Jackson,
claim
go
that you
back to my
made that
question.
he takes money
Stop
from the Russians?
deflecting. Jackson, go back to my question. Stop
Oh,
deflecting.
so
Yes.
What's the difference
I'll
between
answer.
a casing and a bullet?
Wait. I'll answer your question when you answer my question. How does it feel to know that your taxpayer dollars are funding the ethnic cleansing of a bunch of towns you can't even point to on a map?
I don't think it's true, but go ahead. Can you point to where my taxpayer money is paying for that
how
to
does
happen?
it feel? My question was how it feels.
My answer is it's not happening with my taxpayer money. So go ahead, move on.
But that's not an answer.
No, it is. I said it's not happening. That's
You're
an answer.
deflecting.
Well,
Why are you deflecting?
It's not happening.
He gets funded.
You're
He gets
deflecting.
funded by Israel. He's funded by Israel.
Oh, that makes sense.
It's not
Charles,
happening. Can you
stop.
prove evidence it's happening? Jackson, how's it happening? How is my taxpayers?
Charles, unless you have
how
evidence
is the
of
100?
Charles,
hang on.
unless you have
I'm going
evidence
to
of
answer.
making
No,
a
I'm going
de
to
facto
answer.
claim
Hang
that
on.
big, go ahead.
Hang on. Let me answer.
Charles,
how is
you take Israel money.
How is the $150,000 that I paid in tax to Israel?
From a portion of the $3 billion that they suck up from our taxpayer coffers every year, and the extra money that they've now approved, $14 billion, and the extra billion that 100%.
Do you have any proof that $3 billion is being used to ethnically cleanse?
Yeah, let me get my IRS agent on the line, and we'll have him come and join the space.
Oh, because the IRS would know about how funds are being spent in Israel?
Yes.
Like this is the dumbest thing you've ever said. Not the dumbest thing. You've said a lot of dumb shit.
No,
this
come
whole
on,
point
Charles,
is
that's
stupid.
mate. It's too much.
Let's keep it civil.
I think
So,
that there's a reason.
Go back to my question.
Very angry.
I answered your question, Jackson. Now answer mine.
There's
What's the difference between a casing and a bullet?
Charles, are you transgender?
Jackson, what's
Okay. So
what's
let's
the difference
just
between
give
a
a
casing and a
cool.
bullet?
Charles, that has nothing to do with the argument that we're having here today.
Okay,
Today
so
we're here to talk about the
you
debate of
seem
Israel
like you're
Palestine.
PMSing.
Okay, so let's go
What's
to
the
Tira.
difference between a
Can
casing and a
can
bullet?
okay?
Tira,
He said
please
you
go
don't
ahead.
answer it.
Charles, please
Okay.
stand by. You guys can go back and forth. Tira, please go ahead, and then we'll go to someone else. Tira, go ahead, please. You got double muted.
Yeah. It'll take a second. Go ahead, Tira.
Yeah, Tira, go
Yeah,
ahead and unmute, please.
sorry, I could not. First of all, Ryan, Tony Blinken is not a dual citizen.
I
And
know.
this
I withdraw what I said. I
okay,
take it back. I was
great.
wrong. I
But this
withdraw it. Okay, thank you.
concept that all
Now,
of
if we could
these
also correct the other side too every time they say
Can
BS. Thank you very much.
no, can I continue? But there's a sort of a canard that goes around that all of the people of dual citizenships are only loyal to Israel. That's their loyalty, etc. That is just not true.
True.
But no. Okay, you're just saying that. You're saying that because you think it's true, but there's no evidence that it's true. I also don't know
There
of
is
any.
Tira. There's a ton of evidence
Mo,
that it's true.
wait,
They
Mo,
come out.
please,
They
There's
come
a
out and
Mo,
conflict
I
of
actually
am
say it.
interest.
speaking. Mo, I am speaking. I understand that you like to interrupt, but enough, okay? Mo can't run, by the way, for those of you who suggested he run for Congress, he can't run because he's not a United States citizen. He lives in Qatar, I believe, and I don't know what his citizenship, but
Let's
it's
not
not
dox him.
American. No, I'm not doxing. He said that.
Tira, it's okay. Please go ahead.
Okay, so no, the idea that the Biden administration is filled with dual citizens, I would love to see that proof. I've actually looked. I don't see it. I
Tira, I
don't find
withdrew
it.
that. I withdrew that
No,
already 2
No, I think,
seconds
but
ago.
Ryan, Tira. So I think what
Yes.
she's saying is there's this
What I'm
age-old
saying is,
conspiracy. Tira,
yes,
just one
it's
second. There's this age-old
sure.
conspiracy theory that there's dual citizens in the Senate and Congress and the administration. There are not. If someone can point to me to somebody who has dual Israeli citizenship, fine, but you're not going to find it.
Well,
Go
there
ahead,
might
Tira.
be one or two.
What
There
about the
might
guy
be
who
one or
walked
two.
around in
Wait,
Congress wearing
excuse me.
Israeli
There
military
might
uniform?
stop. There might be one or two, but nobody
What
can
about
point to a
Rashida Tlaib
specific
flying a
person.
Palestinian flag in
Excuse me. There
Congress?
might be one or two, but nobody can point to a specific person because we don't know about them and we don't know that they have any real impact on the government. So it is sort of ridiculous to suggest that, oh, all these dual citizens are roaming around with their loyalty to Israel and they are. I wanted to speak to something Faraz said because it is the idea of when history starts to me is really interesting. And this might not be a little too philosophical, but the Jews were in Judea, Samaria in 3 BC. I guess the Arabs came in and conquered in 7 AD, right? So who decides when history starts? The Jews were
Here,
7
dispossessed.
AD.
I'll respond
7
to that.
7
AD. What are you
AD.
talking?
I'll
So
respond
what?
to that.
7
So what I'm
7
what?
AD. What?
Excuse me. There were many
They
other.
conquered in 7 AD. What are you
The
talking about?
Arabs
I'll respond to
conquered
that.
the area in 7 AD. Can you stop? So what,
They
to
did
me, it's
not
really
conquer it
interesting
in 7 AD.
when,
What are you talking
excuse
about?
me, can you please stop? Do you not have any self-discipline? I mean, you're babbling on about, little man and little boy, but, have some discipline here, okay? You're on a
7
stage, people are
AD?
talking. You're
Really?
not,
Okay,
stop,
Seven
hold
Ryan.
on.
AD?
Give
We
her
have to
one
let Tira.
second, and I promise to let you
Now,
go right after
to
her.
me,
Tira, please go
look,
ahead, then we'll go to
I
Haas.
understand when we go back and we sort of go like, oh, the Balfour Declaration, the British, 1917, the Ottoman Empire, we can all do all that stuff. It doesn't get us anywhere. I've said this before because everybody has their own view. When my father used to talk for the Nakba, he would say that yes, some Palestinians were thrown out forcibly, some were killed, others left voluntarily because the Arab countries said, leave now, we'll win the war, and then you come back in. So everybody has different takes on a lot of these things. And to me, I don't understand if your negotiating position starts with, we have to get everything back, then how far back do you go for that? How far back do you go? Because history is it's sort of,
I'll,
it's in the
I'll,
mists, right?
I'll
And so
respond
to
to
me,
that, Tira.
I would love you to, because I just sort of feel like we have these arguments and it doesn't really work for me because I don't think it gets us anywhere. Thanks.
Sure. So I can respond to for me. You can go far back as you want. So if we want to go back 5,000 years, 4,000 years, 6,000 years, 60 years, 50 years, it really doesn't matter. If you're using that as a justification, then technically, like, okay, so the Romans also, at some point were living in
In
Palestine, in a
100 AD is when they threw the Jews out. Thanks.
Yeah, exactly. 100 AD. So if that means then they lived there for a long period as the Romans, then they also have a claim to the land in that sense. But the idea of what you're talking about is so there. This is a really important point. They found 13 ancient bodies in I think it was in the Naqab, in the south, and an Israeli professor did DNA testing on it, and he basically tried to figure out what genetic links they have in terms of DNA, correlation between who is currently living here. You know what the results were? The results were over 60% correlation with those ancient cadavers and ancient bodies were uh, Palestinians, Bedouins, Yemeni Jews, Iraqi Jews, and Druze. Those were the people who are considered till today still uh, uh, ethnically indigenous to the land. Another part is there are Palestinian Jews today, hundreds of them, living in the West Bank in Mount Gerizim, right next to Nablus. They're called the Samaritans. They read the Torah. They're Jews. They consider themselves Jews. They say, we're the
No,
Samaritans. Isn't that the word Judea and Samaria? Who's Samaria?
yeah,
Samaritan.
but Sumerians don't consider themselves Jews, though.
They do. I've spoken to them. I met a guy. They say
No.
we're study the Torah. We're the original Jews. We're the
Yeah,
original
that's what they
BZ,
Yidden.
believe.
I'm sure there's a few Jewish folks among them. Let's
So
not. We don't have to paint with the
let me
broad
let me
brush of
let me
yes or
finish
no.
my point. It's just
Well,
a
no,
really short
we
point.
do
It's a really
actually,
short
Brian. But
point.
okay, go ahead,
Yeah.
Tiras.
So ethnically, they're Arabs. In terms of culturally, they're Arabs. They speak Arabic. They study the Torah. They worship. They're Jewish by all metrics that they consider themselves Jewish. Okay, but they have the Palestinian ID card. And what's interesting is they have a Arabic first name and a Jewish last name. So I met the guy called Abdullah Cohen, and I can show you the interview online where some guy went, an Israeli guy went and did an interview with him. Abdullah, is an Arabic name most predominantly, and last name Cohen. So there are Palestinian Jews that have lived with Palestinians, Muslims, and Christians. Jews are not only just Jews, there are converts as well. There are Jews who converted into Christianity, that are converted into Islam. This is the nature of the moving and shifting sands of any geographic location. They breed, they mix with their neighbors, things happen, people come in, whatever, colonize, all that type of stuff. That's not a justification to up and just come and take all the people's land. And again, Tira, I even conceded to you in the last space before when I said, I'm okay with the two-state solution. I'll agree to it. But is there anyone in Israel who is now in power or a coalition that you can foresee in the future or in the past that can agree, or in the near past that can agree to actually fulfill a two-state solution?
No,
When I say a two-state
no.
solution, I mean 1967 borders. There's no point of saying state minus. If anyone talks about state minus, you're not being serious. If you're saying,
You're correct. You're correct,
if
Ferris. The answer is no.
I
so
think
then what's
Tira
my
made an
choice?
interesting
So then
point
Could
about
I? Could
seven.
I?
Netanyahu put us in a one-state reality. If you want to take it up with someone, take it up with him, and take it up with the Israeli lobby that makes sure that the Americans only know to give the Israelis the carrot and don't know how to use the stick. It's only carrots, no stick, and that's what happens when you just do carrots with a maximalist type of government that's openly racist. And literally in the last UNGA speech, posted a map of Israel from the river to the sea. No one condemned him in terms of saying that's a genocide from the river to the sea. You're calling for genocide. But when Palestinians say from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, Palestine is not an exclusive idea. It doesn't mean no Jews. There are Palestinian Jews. We believe in a equal one state. Not me, I'm saying at least me and a lot of young people in Palestine, when they say from the river to the sea, it means equal rights between the river to the sea under Palestine before Israel existed as a Jewish state. That's what we mean. I know it
So
can be a lot scary because there's not a lot of trust. And you could think maybe there's this idea that there's going to be Hamas savages that are going to come. And this is the problem, is that you can't make one single argument about Hamas in terms of anything that Hamas has committed that is not 100 times more true of Israel's atrocities to the Palestinians. So
Let's go
who's
to.
really the barbarian and the savage in this equation? This is my
Go
I
ahead.
think
problem. You
Tira
guys have
needs
to
to elaborate
Let me
about
go
what
back.
happened
Let
on
me go
seven.
back.
What happened
I'm
on
not.
seven
Wait.
AD?
Shh, shh, shh,
The
shh, shh.
seven
Let
AD,
me
the
go.
October
Let
7th.
me. let me go back, okay? You said that, oh, the Palestinians and the Druze, they share common ancestry. Did you know that the Jews share such ancestry too? 60% actually isn't that much genetically, but okay. Did you know that? Have you read that?
Yeah,
You're
the
talking about,
Yemeni
yes,
and
no, 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 no,
Iraqi.
no, no, Sephardic, Ashkenazi as well. Now, there
No,
is a blood
sorry,
libel. Wait, there is a
the
blood libel that
Ashkenazi Jews
goes
have
around.
the
Hey,
lowest.
Firas,
I
we gotta
think
let
there's
No,
a
no,
Tira
no,
blood
finish.
libel about
that,
7
We gotta let Tira finish, okay? Like we're
Wait,
getting
don't
it.
do the mute all button. We're gonna get in trouble again.
Well,
Tira,
okay,
please
there is
finish.
what,
I'll
Tira,
take the
please
yes,
beat.
I
finish. But I
will.
want Haas to respond to you this time,
There
please.
Okay, but we
is
have to
what
let
I
Tira finish.
Of
can,
course.
yes, well, there is what I term a blood libel because I heard it for the first time on these not this stage, but other stages, and I was sort of like, what? That the Jews, the Ashkenazi Jews, actually weren't the Jews that were in Israel. They were the Khazars who converted and then they moved into Europe. There have been genetic testing that has disproven that has shown that actually the Ashkenazi, Sephardic, and all the Jews share common genetic traits. So if you're going to do things like that, you really need to have all the genetic facts. I'm not sure we have all the genetic facts, but what we do have is that there is common lineage among all of them, including Ashkenazi Jews. So once again, we can have this argument about who was there and what was done and whatever. Now, I think the first step, Firas, to actually be realistic here is to get rid of Bibi, which I would be a big fan of. Okay, he has said he will not leave before the next elections. I am hoping they can find, 5 or 6 votes to call for a vote of no confidence, because I don't think he helps the situation. I think he was responsible for a massive security breach. And also I feel like his policies in the West Bank have been horrific. All right. And I fully say that. But
Tira, who do you want
I
him to replace him? Who would you prefer
well,
to replace?
that's, I don't know right now, because I do feel, and, Ryan,
Tira,
we haven't
wouldn't Benny
discussed,
Gantz be the most reasonable?
well,
Benny Gantz, I feel, is like
Benny
more.
maybe the most reasonable, but I
reality.
don't know if there's any appetite here. I do think that Israel support, I think if you ask the people of Israel, they feel like a two-state solution would be the only way to go. Now, I do not
They're
know
not
how to
even allowed to do DNA testing over there, Tira. Like to
Mo,
check
I
all of it.
can't, Mo, I can't, yeah, I understand that. Mo, I can't listen to you because honestly, some of the things you've said recently,
Okay.
as you know, I am very angry at you about some of the stuff you've said about
Well,
me.
you
So
guys can hash that out in the DMs,
yes,
and I
we will
appreciate
hash
that. I
that
want
out later.
Haas.
Okay,
Yeah,
I
I
just
want
want to
Haas to
say
respond to what you said.
that I don't have,
So I think
Firas, I
Tira
don't have an
is
answer.
I think Tira is displaying a profound colonial ignorance of the history of the region. She claims that in 7 AD the Arabs conquered the region, which speaks for itself in terms of the baffling ignorance of the statement. 7 AD was before the Jews were expelled. That was, I mean, I'm not even going to dignify that. It's just
No, no,
profound
no. The
ignorance
first,
of the
wait,
region.
you're, no, you
So
really
you
don't
Tira,
know
let
said
your
him finish
history.
his
7.
response. Tira,
Okay.
let him finish his response to you, please.
So no, the Arabs didn't conquer the Levant in 7 AD. Moreover, the Arab conquest didn't forcibly remove all the people that were living there and displace them and replace them. There was a fusion that happened. And for all of the conquests and empires that were in the region, the same thing was true. You never had this scenario where you expelled people from their homes and just took their homes and left them out into the dust with nothing. I mean, what Israel did in its founding was historically unprecedented in the region, even when it comes to the Roman expulsion of the Judeans. That was the result of a conflict between Judea and Rome that was going on for a very, very long time. And while it was obviously not a great thing that happened, that was done in a pre-modern context where there was no such thing as an international principle of self-determination of nations, where there was no such thing as human rights or a recognition of Westphalian sovereignty between different countries. So to say that the Nabka or Israel's creation is somehow comparable to some pre-modern conquest, it's complete nonsense. Pre-modern conquests aren't done within the framework of any kind of international law, and it's kind of ironic because in 1947, when Israel was before it was founded in 48 at least, that was exactly when we started creating this kind of new world order of the United Nations and the right to self-determination being the guiding principle of nations. So I kind of think it's just ironic what you're saying. I mean, you don't know anything about the region. You think that the Arabs came in 7 AD. I mean, what, and you know what? A lot of people that live in Israel think the same thing. They don't know where they're
Right, but
living.
either
It's
do
a
you because you
complete
can't.
colonial
You
area.
called it the
I
Nakba,
okay, yeah.
Nakba. So I
I
mean, okay.
actually
Guys, doesn't matter. The
actually
pronunciation
just
doesn't matter.
posted. I
Well, no, no,
actually
no. I
just
think she.
posted
Right,
something
it does matter,
about
Ryan.
it.
When he's saying
And
that she doesn't know
moreover,
anything about the
what
region when he can't pronounce the most
what
basic word of
Haas
the
just
region.
said that there were no Jews before
Can you
whatever it
hold on
was
before
is
hold on, I have to respond to
nonsense.
that.
No, no, no,
I
no,
have to
no.
respond to that.
You
No, I have
just
to
Tira, let
said
him.
respond
there
to
were
that.
no
Tira, he got
BZ,
called out.
Wait,
BZ,
Let him
BZ,
respond, please.
BZ.
Tira,
wait, I
let him
If we're
haven't
gonna
respond.
even
talk,
said
if we're
it.
gonna
I'll come
talk,
back to you.
if we're gonna talk about incorrect pronunciations,
Yeah.
can you make the following pronunciation? Ha. Can you make the ha sound with your throat?
Ha. Ha.
No, you're not
Mas.
doing it right. Not doing it right at all.
Hamas.
No. Can
Hamas.
you
Ha,
That's how you
pronounce?
ha.
say
No,
it.
no, no. It's Hamas. Can you say
Yeah,
Hamas
maybe
for
in
me?
Arabic it is, but my Hebrew's my first language, so we
Nope.
call it Hamas.
Even the
We're speaking
Hebrew
English here,
speakers,
Zeph.
No, well,
Hebrew
I'm speaking
speakers.
Hebrew, Ryan.
Yeah, before the creation of modern Hebrew, when Hebrew was spoken in the Levant, the word they could say ha. They can pronounce that with their mouth. That's been
No, so
proven.
what they
It was
spoke
part
was
of the Hebrew
Aramaic. No,
alphabet.
what they spoke with what they spoke was Aramaic. Okay, Aramaic
And they
has the
could
ha sound.
and there's not nope, there's not a single Semitic group in the region that can't pronounce ha. Every single one can say hummus. You can't. You're a foreigner.
I am a
So we
foreigner,
seriously
absolutely.
have
So, but
like
yeah,
language
we are right.
issues
But
now.
I think
Is that all you
what
guys
All
got
right,
left?
forget the
I don't get it.
pronunciation, gentlemen. Please, we're here to
You
discuss
can't
something.
say hummus.
Guys, let me go to FL for a second. The guy's had his hand up for a century. Go ahead, dude.
All right, thanks. And I got a few points to make. Just real quick, Ryan. I tweeted something in the space you were in a few days ago, and I heard what you said. I just want to say that wasn't directed to you. We're not going to get into it.
I
I'm
don't
not
even
going to
remember, brother. Water under the bridge.
Cool. All right. So there's a few points I want to make just to some comments that were made, and just previously, right? So I'm going to go back to some previous discussions we were having. It seems like there's a few people on the panel are quite upset that Israel and the ties with the United States are so close. It's not the United States' fault that Israel reached out and they strengthened that relationship with the United States when other Arab countries didn't, right? So the United States, they have an interest, yes, to use my words correctly here, keep that region stabilized. But no other Arab countries were reaching out to the United States and to strengthen that
Wrong.
relationship. Like, okay, we'll push back on that in a second. Now, there was a lot of questions talking about how China, Russia, they throw more money into lobbying, and why does Israel get their way? It's we could use a courtroom analogy, right? Just because a plaintiff or a defendant throws more money at an attorney, that doesn't mean he's guaranteed to win the case. Just because you throw more money at a shitty attorney, that doesn't guarantee that you're going to win that case.
But FL, if that shitty attorney knows the judge, you got a better chance of winning the case.
It's definitely a huge factor. It's like definitely like the amount of money you spend on your lawyers is a huge
I don't
factor.
think that.
No, that's not true. I worked in the courts for years. I wish that was the case.
BZ, you've been a lawyer, man. Lawyers and judges have relationships.
No,
Just for that analogy, we've all watched Suits.
No. Okay, I've never seen Suits.
Let's
But
let FL
that's not
continue, please. You should
okay.
check it out.
Yeah,
It's
but
really
the
good.
analogy
But that's
stands.
not
The
hold on.
analogy honestly stands.
Yeah, but
Thank you,
that's
Haas.
not the way courts work. That's not Haas. I don't know what Haas does for a living. That's not the way courts work. I just
Well,
want to
the
make that
analogy
clear.
stands.
Yeah.
FL, go ahead, bro.
So anyway, there were some other claims too I want to push back on. Israel set a record in 2022. I think it was 12 and a half, almost 13 billion in just defense exports. Now that's not a lot. It's not even half of what the United States, exports, right? But it's representative of the trend. And, people were saying that without the United States' help, without the United States' support, Israel would not be able to defend themselves. And that's just completely not true. That's just, they set a record alone in 2022 in just defense. That's not including energy exports, tech, any of that, right? So the claim that Israel would not be able to survive or support themselves without the United States is just not true. Would they have a more difficult time? I'd say yes. That you could probably argue that point, but the fact that they wouldn't be able to hold their own is just not true. And then also we were talking, there was some claims
Hence the 3 aircraft carriers that came in to show support, right?
FL, how long would they? Let me ask you a question. Let's say the US, let's say they didn't ask the US for money 15 minutes into the war. How long do you think they'd last on their own?
I think that if they didn't have any U.S. intervention at all, they would be doing a lot better than what they're doing now because they would be really unrestricted, right?
Mazel
The
tov. Then you
U.S.
know what?
would
We're going to cut all of our aid to Israel. We're going to take all of our weapons back. We're going to take the carriers back home, and then you guys can have fun with Iran, Hezbollah, and Hamas. How about that?
Florida capitalists, I don't think you understand the amount of influence in terms of the American foreign policy influence and how much threatening happens in terms of not just military posturing, but political cover that's provided to Israel by essentially going to all these countries and threatening them
For us, forget about all that. For us, forget about all that. For us, it's like if you and I are brothers, right? And I'm your big brother and I got muscles and I'm standing behind you, and then you're surrounded by a bunch of people who want to beat you up. There's a less likelihood of them hitting you if I'm behind you than if I'm like 2 cities over. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
but
it's
they're
like
not our
this is a
brothers.
wall of
They're not
protection
our
behind
brothers.
them.
They're not our
the
brothers.
Well, they pretend. Step brother, Haas.
The carrier strike groups that are over there for multiple reasons. You know, one, yes, is to deter a more, you know, a larger regional conflict from Hamas. I'm sorry, from Hezbollah and other actors in the area. But it's also to keep Israel under control too, right? I mean, I'm pro-Israel in this conflict, but the United States is there because they do not want a massive conflict in their region, especially in an
It's
election
because,
year.
by the way, FL, it's because they did a blunder where there was a major military stockpile that was shifted to the Ukraine, and they knew that it was depleted, so they had to come pretty fast to show support. And you can go and look at this. So it was predominantly done because they knew that Israel was caught back on the back heel here. But again, it doesn't negate the fact that America came to their aid without question, unwavering, ready to go, locked and loaded. And there is a lot of support evidence that Delta forces are in Israel, are supporting the conflict in Gaza, and in fact, some of them has also passed away. And just Piotr, I just want to put Piotr. Sorry, I just want to put David Petraeus, General David Petraeus, spoke to, I think it was some security committee or something along those lines in 2010, and he actually stipulated that Israel now poses one of the major single threats to the United States because of this support that's taking place. You can go take a look at it. He was silenced after that, but it was very interesting for a general to come out and say that the way America is working today, or at that time, is putting American interest on the back heel on the premise of this unwavering support for Israel. And more importantly, they have identified the
That's
CIA.
the opinion of one ex-general, though. That's the opinion of
He
one
wasn't ex at the
ex-general.
time. He wasn't ex at the time, right? And he basically stipulated that the security and stability of America at this juncture is now at question due to Israel's actions. Like he this is a general. This is an American general, right? And the primary thing that we're coming back to, this sharing of intelligence and so on. Everyone in the region can tell you, including the Saudis, who are also allies to the United States, that Israel poses the single threat to the Americans in that region. No
So
one
Mo, what
dislikes
would I
America.
Hang on. Now we're just conflating a bunch of shit, man.
No one dislikes
We're
America
conflating some
except for
stuff.
their
I want to
Hold
unwavering
talk
on,
support
about
for
this.
guys.
Israel.
We're
Stand by.
conflating some stuff, and also the others ran away, which is annoying because I wanted to shit on them some more. Anyway,
Piotr, to be fair, this is the longest they've both been here, so give them a little bit of
lucky us. Oh wait, no, opposite of that.
Lucky you.
Anyway, no, I mean, look, I just wanted to say that Mo, you conflating a couple things there, buddy. And I mean, maybe not intentionally, but some other people definitely were, which is that there's a difference between Israel having specific members of the US military involved because of certain operations versus them having to literally be supported to the point of existentialism like Ukraine, right? I think that the threat of Russia to Ukraine is a lot more significant than that of Hamas to Israel. The US went in with the carrier strike groups first as a solidarity move, and they've been sitting around there for a while, but they haven't really done that much. They've shot some missiles out of the sky, but it's not like they've been barraging Gaza along with the Israelis, which I think that they were willing to do at one point. And I also point out that the early days, yes, absolutely. Hamas, there was an article that came out in the BBC just this evening, and I was reading it during this debate, and the suggestion is that this Hamas attack on October 7th was actually done in coordination with about 5 other Palestinian groups that are based in the Gaza Strip. So they literally brought everybody together, PIJ, all the others, and did this thing. But even then, after about a week, 2 weeks, they didn't go further into Israel, partially because they didn't want to, but partially because they couldn't. So and that's because they were not going to get the support of all the other groups. So this notion that Israel was suddenly going to be eradicated because Hamas went into Israel, yeah, sure, they would have possibly gone further in and caused. No way. Like the Americans, even if they didn't get involved at that point, they still wouldn't. It's not the Russian Federation, guys. Like Hamas does not have the military capacity to launch such a widespread attack. So this whole idea that Israel is going to be sort of like overwhelmed that quickly and therefore has to rely on the defense of the US, if that involved Iran, Syria,
to the Hamas members that got killed was during that invasion that they attempted. I'd assume, again,
they didn't
assumption,
even
no
want to
proof.
go in that far. We saw the documents, Ryan, when you were on the stage with me
Right.
during the space. They said that they didn't expect to succeed
They
as
were
much
surprised.
as they did. Yeah,
They were
they did.
surprised.
So
They
all
weren't
this
expecting the
notion
people to be
about-
there in the festival, because that festival,
Yeah,
remember,
so-
was
support for sure, and I have my reservations about how far the Israeli lobby goes in the United States, as I said before. Duo seem to like to push is also ridiculous, because it's that you're conflating 2 points, and it's deliberately done, and it's just bullshit. So anyway,
So Ryan
On that
and
point,
Mo, I got a question for you, Ryan and Mo. What would happen? Okay, so what would happen if the United States completely pulled out? You talked about unequivocally pulling out everything out of the region, a support for Israel, because we already saw the results of that when the United States pulled out of Iraq and Syria, and we saw the rise of the Islamic State. So, and that also means too, if the United States pulls out of the entire region and they stop their support for Israel, no other nations that are not in the region can come in, right? So Russia can't come to the support of Syria or anything. Israel is left on their own. What would happen in that region?
we'll put that question to the audience. Like if aid is pulled out, Ryan, is my mic okay?
absolutely.
Well, I
Yeah,
have
if
the
aid is
answer. I
pulled
just want
out,
to see what Ryan and Mo has to say.
yeah,
I know it's both yours.
I know, but I don't. That's because I do want to wrap up the space, FL. So for the audience, let us know what you think of this question in the comments on the purple circle bottom right corner. By the way, did Simon speak, Ryan, or not at all?
No, not at all. Simon just got here.
Hey,
Joined us.
yeah, I brought him up. I brought him up based on this. But Simon, are you there?
Yes, I'm there.
Okay, cool. All right, cool. I was just checking your mic quality and get an idea of because we brought you up based on your experience and your background. But yeah, if you can come up next space, but make sure your mic quality is better, please, Simon. I would love to have you. For everyone else, let us know your thoughts on the space in the bottom right corner in the purple circle. Also, there's a pinned tweet at the top that I pinned earlier. If you want to join our Telegram group, I think it's a Telegram group or WhatsApp. Yeah, it's a Telegram group where we update everyone on the next space, and we send a lot of private information there. I'm not sure what we're going to start sharing. I'm not sure if we started yet. Make sure you join that group. Otherwise, they're pretty incredible space. It was meant to be 2 hours. It's 4 hours. We tried our best to keep it as balanced as possible, considering how contentious it is. Ryan, Zev, thoughts on the space?
Real quick, before Rami kills me, she asked me to remind you to ask the space if there's anyone in the PS.
You dropped down.
That can help us with.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys. Can you hear me?
With tweeting, help us with tweeting.
Yeah, help us with tweeting in the PSD time zone. Rami asked me to ask the space.
Anyone that wants to join our team, PST time zone, to help us. We tweet 24/7 every 20 to 30 minutes, sometimes every 5 minutes, depending on news. So we've got a 24/7 team. If you want to join the team, do hit me up via DMs, and the team will get back to you. Zev, thoughts on the space? Cool, great feedback, guys.
It was amazing.
No.
It was
Sorry,
amazing.
I was mute. Okay, I think it was a really good space. It was fun to engage with Mr. HINKLE and Mr. Azzedine, and yeah,
cool.
I'll leave it at that. Yeah, great space.
I loved it, man. I think it was one of the best spaces we've done so far. It was a lot of fun, and
yeah, probably.
Thank you for everyone for being a good sport.
Yeah.
Cool. Appreciate everyone.
Yeah,
See you tomorrow.
okay.
See you. We're going to do 2 or 3 spaces a week, depending on the news cycle. So if there's anything major, we'll see you. Otherwise, we'll see you in a few days. Take care, everyone. Thanks a lot for joining. Thanks for this panel. Bye-bye.